This is about your soul. This is about how exactly you're going to get through infinity. So if you're impatient and you got all that going on, I can help you right now and save you some time. You may just want to click off and go about your existence. And then, maybe in 15 years when shit gets really serious, if you're still around, you'll be like, wait a minute, there was this one guy talking about some stuff that may apply to this. And then you'll maybe come back, and you probably won't be on YouTube anymore, but you'll find it somewhere. I'm just saying, like, if you don't have the patience for yourself, then you need to go and do whatever you're in a rush for, because in life, as you're going to see today, if you do hang in there and actually listen to what is going to be transmitted, in life, it's going to be about your actions and your deeds. And that's truly what's going to make things one way or another for you. So, everybody's saying the audio is good. Let me go ahead and pause this right here so I'm not using up bandwidth. And again, like what I'm saying is take a moment and go ahead and get, some Palo Santo, some sage. If you don't have it at your house, you're already slipping. So I'd advise you to go and read up about cleansing the space, cleansing your consciousness, cleansing your aura, and how to use sage and Palo Santo and those kind of things to do that, because, you got energies that come through all the time anyway. They're like seasonal. So it's like at one point out here, the butterflies come through. At another point, there's beetles, and you'll see birds nest at a certain time, trees sprout at a certain time. So too, all energies move through the space at certain times. So especially since, as a human being, you're very open. Sometimes we get open to a lot of different things because we have all these orifices. We have our ears, our eyes, our nose, our mouth. And because we have all of these things, it at times will pick up some of this, like a cold. And then you get that in your body, and you may not be able to tell it. Like, the only real agent we have sometime to let us know when something foreign is in our body is our mind, because we'll start thinking strange thoughts and weird things that we normally don't think. But because all this is invisible, just like the air, you don't got to necessarily believe in ghosts and spirits, even though they definitely exist. But just like the air, just like it's invisible, you may not see it. And you got something going on inside your mind. You may not know where that's coming from. And this is how you get that energy cleared. So I wanted to start with this. There may be even an exorcism today. Somebody may even have to go through an exorcism because they have so many of these energies around. And we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to get into how you should be preparing yourself for the time that we're in. We're in 2020 now. This is no longer exercise. This is real world. And in the real world, you're going to have to know what decisions to make, because making the wrong decisions are going to cost you. And as you empower yourself properly with the message today, though, you'll be completely prepared for infinity. That's what this is about today. It's about giving you a blueprint or a manual to self that you can use throughout your existence. You can teach your children. You can raise them up in the way that they should go. You can admonish your friends and colleagues, as they call it, and family members. And you can stay on balance with the truth, because, very simply put, the word gnosis doesn't just mean the ability to know without being told, as if you're divining something. That's not all what the word means. In fact, according to the Catholic Encyclopedia, the word gnosis actually means one who knows, as compared to one who does not. And when you look deeply into this tradition and you just ask a simple question, so what is it that they know that everybody else doesn't know? Or is that, as this insists, there's only two type of people in this world: the ones who know and the ones who don't. What is it that they know that the others do not? So give me a second. Let me check my mics. I got my family holding space. Thanks to my brothers Finn and the tribe. The pillars are here. The moderators, thank you so much for being in the space. I also hear like some wind gushing sounds. So let me fix my mic, make sure I'm not getting in the brush up against my mic, mess up my audio later on. Got folks wanting to get the transmission, but just can't get through the density. Okay. Let me turn this on silent so it's not bothering me. Okay. Just trying to figure that. See, I have a live audio in here, so it's kind of letting me know if something's going on. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I'm going to get started with this today. Just move this over here. So where we're going to start today, actually, is we're going to start with the exercise here. You know, we're going to get ourselves together, and we're going to take this moment, and we're going to raise our hands, because this is body language. You know, it's the programming of the body, and the body realizing, you know, that it's a victor and not a victim, right? You're a victor of this. This is your victory. You know, you're not a victim here. And when you raise your hands up, you know, you could do that for 30 seconds or so. You raise your hands up. I want you to think about that you're receiving a medal or a trophy, you know, first place, something that you've worked for a long time. And then now, you know, you won, and now you're receiving it. And so since you've been working so hard on all of this, are you going to receive it and then you're just going to emo out and just walk away like, okay, thanks everybody. I just went through this gauntlet, and now that I've won and there's no time to celebrate, I'm just going to go home. No, you're going to celebrate, and you're going to put your hands up and you're going to raise that in the air, and that's going to get you into the mindset and the consciousness of an awareness that what you have achieved is indeed great. So let me pump up this light real quick. All right, you know, give everybody a hand for making it today. Like you could have been anywhere, but you're here. And wow, what a place to be. So we got the space clear. Let's see. Okay, yeah, the space is clear. It looks like a lot have jumped on the board in that 7 minutes that we had to, you know, work out the connection and the sound. And we had our silent space. So also, I will tell you, at this stage, especially what I'm going to bring today, like I don't want to feel like I'm being rushed. Like I can always edit this down at any point after this. You know, we got, you know, some good folks in the tribe that even are masters at editing. So they've been taking the stuff and breaking it down. And because of that, you know, I want to say there's no rush, because the reality is that if you don't get what's coming across today, which I'm going to do the best that I can to transmit this to you. A lot of this you've already known and heard before, but some of these things that I'm going to mention are going to connect a lot of dots for you. And you're going to learn then that, especially in this conversation, there should be no rush in learning something like this, because you should, once you get this, you know, you're straight. But if you don't get this, you have multiple lifetimes to figure this out. And for better or for worse, like some want to move on, but they don't know what they're going to move on to. I'm going to explain to you what you're going to be moving on to and what that even means, like what happens really after death. I'm going to explain this stuff so clear, you're going to be like, oh man, why didn't I think of that? What's been going on? How did I not see that? Or I knew that, but I never really was able to absorb it like that meaning in itself. What's different here? And the difference is, it's 2020. And as we said before, a lot of people are waiting on external phenomena. Yeah, we're on the brink of, we've been in a war, right? It's the same game. So all that's always been going on. But the true essence of what is happening now is about what is changing for you. and what's actually happening for you. How are you benefiting off this experience? Are you still a slave inside of a matrix, waiting on Neo or some Christ to come and save things, some book, something that's some moment to where, you're supposed to receive something and that's going to change your whole life? Or is there something that's been going on a consistent basis that you need to look at, and you need to start going through the process of working yourself through in order to inherit what it is that you want to receive in this infinity, okay? So let me see where my space is here. So I guess I have from here to here, which is the end of my board. And many love this board. Today, we're actually going to talk about archons, okay? It's a hot topic, literally. And I know that the board has a little bit of glare going on. And the best thing I was able to do is get this brown marker and use this. Let me silence this audio real quick. Thank you, brother. One of our brothers just sent me a message, let me know he had my back and my front and my side. So that's great. And then also, the reason why we hold space is because when we're bringing these powerful messages, there's different kind of people here on the line. Like, you may be straight with your ancestors, but somebody may have drifted in off of a YouTube recommendation, and then now they're sitting in the face of ultimate truth, and they have all of these things around them that are like, oh my goodness, no, do not let him, her get the truth. That's like the first thing that I want to talk about today, that we've been talking a lot about unity. We've been talking about harmony and balance. Some people have taken that into their own context and imagine that just means like peace in a certain way. Like it just means, being docile and not arguing and fighting and all that. And while that may be entailed in the whole process, like that may come from it, that's not exactly what it is. Unity is actually the realization of at least the positive, what you would call positive, and the negative, or the good or the bad. It's the realization. Because see, until you are ready to become aware of who you truly are, you are divided. So if you are a being that is both a composite of, let's say, darkness and light, we'll use those two terms, and you only want to partake in the darkness, or you only want to partake in light, then you're not actually in unity, because you're not aware of this other aspect of things that you're ignoring and why that even exists. So it's like you're in this gray area, literally. And the beauty of what we're going to be talking about today is that when you obtain this unity, this level of awareness of what is going on with the two aspects of self, it gives you the ability to actually see everything. This is literally what happens. Like on a spiritual level, you're able to see into the great kingdoms of existence. Okay. Now, also, there's some cicadas going on in the background, holding space for us too. They're getting us, that's nature. Like I'm in the jungle right now. That's why sometimes the internet connections and all that kind of stuff is like a gift out here. But it's also a gift to be out here and to be able to go through the process that nature is taking me through, and all those that are enjoying nature, as it keeps tuning in the body to the times that we're living in. Because you would think that the wars and stuff are being caused by human beings. You would think that like the despair, the poverty, the thirst trapping, as we call it, all of this stuff is being caused by the human being. But the reality is that this is a bigger construct, and there's all sorts of forces moving through. And when you're in nature, you're able to see those forces when they're coming. Like you see when the centipedes come, especially there's a centipede that if it bites you, it's as poisonous as a snake. And so you see when the centipedes come through, you see when the butterflies come through, you see when everything comes through. And because these are the spirits, these are the broke down versions of the archons. And so you're able to say, okay, well, this kind of energy is moving through. Let me prepare myself. So I'm going to take a moment again. I'm going to ask those that are in the chat, as far as our private chat, to give me the thumbs up that everything is good with the sound, that we're not spiking, that we're not jittering, that none of that is happening, because I know sometimes, that goes on, and then the message becomes so immersive. People don't say, hey, pump the audio up a little bit for me, or hey, it's hitting the roof, it's spiking, or something like this. And this today is, I would love to say I would only want to give this delivery once. And I have a tendency to even move on from things like this and go more into a synthesis. But I want to not have to revisit the conversation I'm going to have today because the audio and things was out of order. So I'm going to let that breathe. And the other thing that I want to say is that now, because of this unity that I've been able to inherit, and many others that are with me, I've been able to open my consciousness up so vast, I've been able to see myself, okay? And this is important. Let me look at the message here. Okay, great, loud and clear, all good. I've been able to see myself. And the reason why I say it that way is because this is what happens. You know how some people, right, they want to be either good or bad, okay? And I even thought about this for a moment because, man, sometimes I even get so polarized into the good side of things. I have even a hard time thinking about people who actually want to go and do bad. I even almost forgot about that there's people who want to do bad, like really want to do it. I sometimes think that, okay, well, the people who are doing bad are doing that because they're being forced to do it and the conditions of life. And I give all these different reasons of which when I was doing something that was off or crazy, why I was doing it. It was, no, I'm trying to feed my family and all these other things that were going on. But then, but in that time, I wanted to be a great person. I wanted to go to MIT or whatever and learn knowledge and start a business. And I wanted to do all that. But, the streets was calling, and it wasn't saying for me that that was going to be an opportunity for me. So I was a person, let's say, that had been doing some bad things, but really wanted to do good. Okay. And that was the lens that I was focused on in life. But then I just realized as I was preparing all of this for today, last night, there's people that actually want to be bad. Now, both of these are poles. Okay. But there are people who are like, let's say, for instance, like your average rapper. Okay. Oh, I done blew something up. I done killed. I done smoked something. I done sold some stuff. And I done, all of this going on, right? Which is all distortions, right? And they want that. They're literally saying, this is what I want to do. But they may be as soft as Charmaine tissue. Okay. So they may be pretending like, okay, I'm polarized to the bad. And I'll bust somebody up. I'll shoot up this whole place. But really, when the door is closed, hey, Mom, you want me to cook you some noodles? You see what I mean? So all of that is fake, okay? And then likewise, you got these people that do think that they're good. Oh, namaste. Oh, brothers and sisters, I'm here. I'm so high and holy and precious. And everybody needs to try to be the greatest that they can. And then meanwhile, when the person gets in the back room, I hate them. I can't stand this whole thing. And they even get a bit more crazier. They practicing some weird magic and, oh, Hathor, I want you to bring down my enemies. And this is what's going on inside the background. Now, the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is because whether it's Instagram, whether it's in the church, or whether it's in the pulpits of Satan, if you may, you got people constantly trying to either be good or bad, but never being aware that they are both. That they actually are comprised of what we would say is darkness and light. And they have both of these sides, that there are things that they do, even that hardcore killing rapper. Like I met drug dealers in life that were taking care of 50 to 100 people. And they seemed like the fathers of the whole thing and getting cats off the street and feeding old ladies and all this kind of stuff. But they were still drug dealers, right? But they still had this other side to them. And same thing with I've watched these people prance around acting like they're floating, doing all these festivals and starting all these shows. And then in the back room, they got 10 girlfriends. They're thinking about nefarious things and they're scamming people out of money and all that going on. So what I'm getting at here is that when any being is not aware of what it truly is because it's trying to be polarized to one pole, they live in darkness, one, and meaning darkness of self, ignorance of self. And this is the more detrimental part. They create an alternate character, okay? And this alternate character is, of course, let's just take the person that wants to be good, right? So they want everybody to see them as good. So they put on all this makeup, basically. They hide every single thing about what they do. They curate their lives. And when they're out in the open or they're talking to someone or when they're, brought up on stage to talk, they give you this presentation from this altered character that they've created. Now, this character is not whole, okay? And because of that, that means that it's very fragile. Give me a second. I'm going to just close this window here, this door here, just because there's a lot of wind blowing. So their character is fragile. Why? Because anything that's not whole and anything that's not complete is fragile. It's broken. Okay, so let's put these words up here so that way we can understand these core concepts and principles as we move forward into the esoteric knowledge. Okay, so we have fragile, okay, and broken, okay? And what this means is when you are not whole, when you're only a part, okay? So this is like a perfect diagram. It's as simple as this, the light and the dark. So when one person is emphasizing one of these over the other and trying to pretend like they only exist as one of these, they're broke because they actually create a character out of only one of these. And they try to stay in that character while they're in front of everybody. Oh yeah, I'm told you, I'm no joke. But then when they get in the background, now they got to figure all of that out. They got to deal with that inside of their mind. And what this creates then is, let's say that person who is they have a high maintenance level with themselves, right? Like even with this kind of person, it's almost like they're trying to be bad so much that they're fragile. So the moment that someone says, man, you ain't bad, maybe he'll even kill the person right away just to prove that he's bad. Or when you tell a person you ain't good, they'll put on more makeup, try to do more different things. I am a good person. And it'll sting them to the heart. It'll sting them every time they hear something that they don't want to accept, but they know that they are and are a part of. They immediately want to get upset. And in fact, these kind of people, it's so easy to hurt their feelings. It's so easy to trigger them. It's so easy to tick them off. So let's bring this personal. When you have these kind of fragilities of not being aware that you consist of both of these things, what happens is you become insecure. That's also another part of being fragile and broken. Insecure, not safe, not whole, not protected. Okay? So as the person's going through life fragile, broken, and insecure, especially as they get into more of the groove of their consciousness, okay? Because see, what happens here is when you're being only one side of who you're supposed to be, you set a groove in your consciousness. It's like a record, as we talked about. And you set this groove of this pattern that you're really not. So of course, later on in life, you start to become disgusted with yourself. I'm getting older. I'm not as pretty as I used to be. I'm not as tough. Those guys are tougher. I'm weak. I feel weaker. I need to go work out. I need to go get a red car. I need to go and get a booty. I need to go get some titties. I need to do all of these things because my fragile, weak self has completely been destroyed or decayed because of all of the barrages, because this reality, imagine being fragile in this reality, especially now. I mean, this is the time where someone will call you right out on Facebook. They'll completely obliterate your entire, your rapport, your so-called, your status. All of this can be destroyed in one YouTube video. You're so fragile. But haven't you always wanted to be the person who was comfortable in your own skin? Have you ever met someone that was so comfortable in their own skin, you even admired kind of how they were acting? It's like they didn't even care. They open up the door, you know, their stomach is all out and everything. They go, what's up, what's up? And the girls are even there. What's up, y'all come in. And then, you know, it's like they're just so casual with the whole thing and so comfortable in being their good and their bad. It's like they don't have to put on makeup. They don't need to feel like they get older and that everybody feels like they're more beautiful and more real. And then here you are still trying to inject your lips to look like a duck a little bit more. You see what I mean? It's just a wonder. It's like, how are some people able to accomplish this? Now, there's still very few that are able to accomplish this, but there are some that are so comfortable with who they are, they're good and they're bad, that it's no longer about them and everybody else. They're in an introspective relationship with themselves. And since ultimately you're the one that goes to sleep at night and thinks in your own mind, when you die, I don't die. I die to you, meaning that you will no longer be aware of me once you cross over. But I am still here. So ultimately, the most important thing is you. So it's about creating a house that you can live in, not that everybody else has to be so satisfied with, because we know, and these are basics, that's why I got to go through basics first, but because we know that you're never going to be able to please everyone anyway. You're never going to, with so many different characters, at this point we have it to 9. That's Enealogy, Joyous Numerology, Enneagram, whatever you want to call it, 9 different characters. You're never going to be able to please all those characters. Why? For sure, what can make me have a great time can make another person angry and disgusted. You see what I mean? Like we are at such oddities with this yin and yang thing that we have going on, that what may be pleasurable to me may be pitiful for somebody else. Shoot, the channel is still only at 100,000 subscribers. If what I was saying, like, we vibe with this message, we know, man, this message is on point. Like, I hear this, I know this is me, it resonates with me, but it doesn't resonate with everybody. You'll get more views on Comedy Central. And this is, again, an example of it. But again, we got to go into something very deep here in a moment, because as the topic is today, the topic is about the archons, and we're going to do this in a way where everyone's going to completely understand exactly how this is working, so you can see what the future holds and how you can shape the future. So here's another thing. What we're talking about today, as far as the divisive, broken, fragile forces, meaning things that are operating as if all is not self, they hate this. They hate it. You need to be on point, because this is a treasure that you can easily at any moment be assailed for. They hate unity. Why? It means the end of them. It's that simple. Unity in an awareness of all, the totality, ends it for divisive forces. Now, you may think, you know, in the Namaste mind, that everything wants to be together and connected. But every time you walk out into the reality, and every time you turn on the TV even, you see a slew of beings, humans, that are not acting that way. Okay? Now, instead of even looking at them individually, start looking at that energy as a collective. Meaning that when you get certain energies, let's say killers, murderers, okay? That is a specific energetic form. So it's not about just that singular murderer. It's about all of the murderers and the energy they create together, or the energy. See, that's why they can't figure out what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? And they'll argue that all day. And it's because we'll wonder, well, is that form, which we could say that murdering archon, is that form here manipulating us to think and do those kind of things? Or is that form created by us because we're doing those things? And if you were sitting with Socrates and Plato and all the rest of those who go through rhetoric and trying to figure out something that either way, it doesn't solve the problem, let's get on to the next one. It's not just about saying which one of those are the one. It's both. That's the truth. It's both. When you're not talking, okay, or when you're talking, you're getting out what is inside of you so that your mind can put more in. Okay? So when you're talking, this is going this way, the mind is absorbing more things. So this creates this cycle. So anytime you stop talking, like Vipassana, when you go like 5-10 days without talking, that's 10 days with Vipassana, you shut up, literally, like this, you dam up this force. And then once you dam it up, then you're able to light up inside. You're able to actually see other parts of your consciousness. You're able to see where the frequencies are coming from your thoughts. And the reason is because when you're doing this talking and thinking, and that you're keeping that rotation going on consistently, which is not meditation, by the way. That's why meditation is to stop the mind, as we talked about in our previous episode. It's to stop. That's real meditation. But you can't even begin that until you shut up. And you can start that by not talking for a prolonged period and then examining yourself and starting to realize there's actually a channel that is on all the time that is just like, hey, do you feel that? Do you feel that scratch on your back? Do you think that they really said that? Why don't you go check your messages? What about tomorrow? What are we going to do next year? Are you going to fix the car? Are we going to eat tonight? What's going to happen to us? And it's going to be doing that. And that is what we're going to be talking about today also, is about where those forces exist and how to actually get in control of yourself, how to steal your mind back. Because what happens then is that when you do it all the time, you become dull. You become dulled out. That's why it's so difficult now to even have a perception. Like, where's all this coming from? When I get sick, what frequency is that? How do I eliminate that frequency inside of my body? It's so difficult to do any of that kind of stuff because there's been so much chatter. And the wheels of your mind are now so dull from the continuous action, reaction without stopping up and saying, hold on, let's stop this for a minute. Think about even right now, you not saying anything for 5 days and how tough that is going to be. Now, you'll be just thinking about it, which is what your mind wants you to do. When you do it, you will either have a breakthrough or break down. Or you break down and then you break through. Because what you'll witness from your consciousness is that the mind will get louder and louder and louder, almost as if it's screaming at you, almost as if it's something separate than even you. And it just wants to get your attention, And this is how you boss up. This is how you become a master, because a master will recognize this all of a sudden. It is a point where you recognize, it's like, yo, who is this? What is this? That ain't me. I'm trying to be quiet. And this thing wants to talk. And I wasn't aware of this before because I thought this was me. But now that I know who I am, this is like day 3, day 4. Now I know who I am. And I just want to really sit here and keep doing this. Stop up for a moment, shut up for a moment. This thing wants to bring up everything. And then it starts going back. It starts going back through all your life. It'll start going back. It'll even get you as a child. It'll start singing the He-Man song from By the Power of Grayskull. It'll just start bringing all of this stuff up that you thought you forgot. Still trying to get your attention until finally it will become defeated. And once you defeat it, meditation begins, which is just the beginning. So you see how this is in life. We're spending so much time, and this is me included, all of us spending so much time not doing this or doing things that encourage us. Huh? Okay. Doing things that encourage us to continuously stay on this hamster wheel. So let's keep going with this, okay? So now, when I say unity doesn't work for them or they, who am I talking about, right? Because that's always comes up in all these different conversations from our spiritual speakers. They're always like, they. And we're always wondering, like, who is they? And then they try to, well, the military-industrial complex, well, this and this and this. And they try to group all this stuff together in they. And then we start trying to break down, well, why is they even doing it? And then all of a sudden, it's just like, it's a mess, right? But who is they? Remember we talked about, we used to call it the divided one, divided man. Those are the old days. That is they. That weak, fragile, frail, insecure aspect of totality, not just self, totality, has created something. Okay? Like even the act and the form of division creates something. Creation is a part of even bringing dualistic forces together, and then they birth something. The male and the female then birth something. So when I say they, what we're talking about is we're talking about the individuals, right? The individuals, and this is kind of a paradox, functioning as a collective, but a divided collective. And let me explain that. Remember this. Okay? I put this chart up last week. Let me push it. I think it's pushed already, so you can see it. So when I'm saying they, what I'm referring to is, although you cannot see every single aspect of what's going on in this chart right now, when you see all of the little different symbols, all of the little different paths, all of the little different words, all the little, this looks so appealing too, right? Like for an occultist, it's like, well, shoot, I'm going to find something out in here. This is it. It even looks right away like, yo, this is it. I ain't never seen a diagram like this. Now, some have seen this before, of course, but this is called the Temple of Solomon, which we're going to get into in a minute because truth be told, and you'll wait for your favorite esoteric teachers to explain this, maybe after they hear me say it. No, I'm joking. But they just killed Solomon, okay? It's symbolic. So this General Salamion, whatever his name is, that's Solomon. And they just killed Solomon. So now, since Solomon is no longer over the temple, which was built by demons, now the demons are going to break free. This is what all this symbolism is about. It's about wars that have been going on, that the last time that your CNN would have told you about it was Canaan trying to explain it to you in the Old Testament of the Bible with the Assyrians. And how the Assyrians, which are the Iranians now, how the Assyrians were the most warlike. They were like the weapon. They were the ones that were used when there was going to be retribution poured out on something. They're that check and balance system. And that's their clipboard, meaning that is their downfall. This is their shadow, okay? War and being masters of war, conflict, fire. Now, I'll pause for a moment because this transmission does not come to you today without my own trials and tribulations being experienced. I have now gone through 3 elements. First, wind, which was gentle. Still my favorite. It descended upon me. Wisdom. Then water, way more aggressive. It was like coming up my body, went all the way to my neck, and then I drowned. And then fire. I had to go through fire recently. I had to run into a building that was blazing with fire in order to save what was mine. And once that was done, the trial by fire, as the ancient African Alkebulanans will tell you, like when you were younger, you would have to go through these rites of passage. That's why the invisible college, the real one, will still put you through these rites of passage. You may not see that you've been through these type of trials before, but then all of a sudden you're in the face of a real element. Like even in that ocean, man, the waves are huge. I had a time where the wave was just going to drown me. It was pulling me back into the ocean, and I couldn't swim it. And I was just ready to die at a certain point. Like I just was like, well, damn, I guess that's how it is. I was out on one of these beaches in Costa Rica. There's like endless miles of beach and nobody. And I was on one of those beaches. I had jumped out there. And some of the guys said, hey, youngster, you ever watch out? You need to, first of all, put some sunscreen on. I'm like, sunscreen? I'm black. And they were like, watch what happens. It doesn't matter. This is a different kind of sun. I was like, all right. They were like, yeah, and you got to be careful out there. Man, I know how to swim. Okay. I got sunburned that day and I almost got drowned. And because it was just not my time, I even heard the ocean say, can I take him? I was like, what? Who are you talking to? And then something said, nah. And then a wave came and boom, pushed me back and allowed me to get to where I can. Now I'm 6'2". So I was over my head in moments and not able to get myself back together. And so I got to a point with that wave and I went back in. I was like, whew, I'm never going to do that again. Now, these are trials by elements, okay? And in the ancient times, the reason why they will put you through these kind of things is for you to actually become a real man, a real woman, a real androgynon, whatever, a parent, an ancestor, whatever title you want to give it, for you to grow up, an adept, for you to grow up, because elements are not playing around with you. They can take your life. And you'll be on the brink of your life. And that's why the masters were like the ones who would be there enough to take you on the brink of your life, but not to where you feel like you can depend on them. Do you see the problem? If you always feel like you can depend on something and be protected by something, you can't learn the lesson that the elements are going to teach you, because you'll be like, well, Jesus is always going to protect me. Well, shit. That pretty much doles out your entire life. You'll never go through a real experience because you're saying that some other thing is supposed to protect you. You need to learn how to protect yourself. But if you're scared, now you have to go through the process of conquering those fears. And this is what the tutelage in the rites of passage were really about. Because there are things here. We're not the only ones. We're not the only ones to go through the experience or in the experience. We're not the only forms in the experience going through the experience. And even the decisions that we make are not like the decisions that other beings make. Even our mode of life, getting up, eating in the morning, sunlight, all that kind of stuff, the integers are totally different. So who are you or any of us to actually go into a whole nother range of species or life form or alien and say, well, no, this is how you're supposed to live? It's bigger than that. It's bigger than you. This is why most people have a hard time dealing with so much of this knowledge and occultism and all this, because they're always trying to make it conform to a westernized life or even an Eastern lifestyle, when this is a cosmic thing. And to sober everyone up in the ancient times that wanted to learn more about themselves, they would introduce you to the elements first, as I left that recording on my page about, where you meet air, meet fire, you see what I mean, and meet these elements for what they are: water, earth, you know what I mean, and how powerful they really are. So that way you can realize how mediation works. Because if you're thinking you're going to go and defeat fire, good luck. You tell United States that right now. You're going to go and beat the Iranians? Good luck on that. Actually, go to the city of Pigrapha, and it would tell you that from this moment, when they hit the beehive, which was symbolic, now the hornet's nest, now all of the hornets are going to swarm, and they're going to be all over the place. There's going to be no pinpointing them into one place, like a guerrilla warfare. And this is what happens if you disturb the hornet's nest. And these are all prophecies that are just playing out, because to be honest, when you really think about this, you got to take a breath for one moment and think about, one, are you going to be here forever? If you are, that means that you got a lifetime, multiple lifetime sentences. So that's the first thing to think about. Are you going to be here forever anyway? You're going to go at some point anyway, so get out of the fear basket, right? And then the second thing, well, give me a moment on that, because I want to get into the nitty gritty, but we got to drive into this, because the next thing is that, as we talked about, so these forces, and I showed you the chart, right? Like there's kingdoms upon kingdoms, all built up in division, all holding certain spaces and cultivating certain kind of energies. So I'm going to explain that. So as I talked about earlier, instead of thinking that, okay, that was my second thought. My second thought was also, now not to mention you're already going to leave, but also think about this. As an alchemist, okay, would you really want there to be no kind of check and balance system? Kind of like no reaping what one sows? Do you know how off everything would be if I could not reap what I sowed? If my faith without works were dead, and I realized that, so I just went into works, and then I built up something, and then I would expect to inherit or enjoy it, right? Because that's me reaping what I'm sowing. So I would want that system to work, okay? However, when you look at society or World Star Hip Hop or anything else that is extremely off balance and is consuming young, old, innocent, guilty, all of them alike, right, with no discretion, do you think that it's okay in alchemy for that to not like get a check? No, of course not. So that's also when we're looking at this reality and we're like, well, I hope the financial system doesn't crash. I hope that we don't get a nuclear bomb. I hope, and we go into all these different things, and maybe we get none of those, but what I'm saying is, what is going to be the check and balance system for an Epstein, Lolita Island situation? What is going to be the check and balance system for all of what we're seeing going on that we know is not giving our youth, not giving our animals, not giving our world, our air, and everything else the fair opportunity to continue to thrive without being checked? Where is the husbandman? Okay? That's the question that's coming out, because that's not a male or a female. That's, in fact, let me explain that. First of all, I had to break this word down the other day about maid, like a maid, okay, M-A-I-D. Marker is killing out. All right, let me see if I can. Okay, made and made, right, which means to not only to create, but also to be, as in a maiden, the wife, right? And now when someone is cleaning your house, we call them the maid. And this is coming across to most people like, well, the maid is the one that's the lowest one because they work for us. And they have no clue of where this word originally comes from and why later on women that were cleaning the house became known as maids. And it's obviously because the maid or the maiden is always managing the house and was seen as, quote unquote, God's wife, because only God's wife manages his house. Okay, so since the house is earth, all of the maids or the maidens were the ones that had the most power. In fact, the Messiah was a female, not a male. It wasn't a man, a Jesus, son of God and all this. That's not what it was. It was a maiden, a grail. And her job was that she cleaned earth. Okay? So even when we're using these terms, husbandmen, this is why the Amazons, Lady Liberty, all of those are actual symbols of war. Wonder Woman, okay? These are symbols of war gods because they will whoop your ass just like mom will whoop your ass. So that is where all of that came from as far as this term, the maid, the maiden, right? And so the forces that come here to actually deal with things are not just this Marduk male figure. No, it's actually Lady Victory and the Amazonian Queen and Wonder Woman and that kind of energy, which pushes out retribution after compassion in order to balance itself out. But wait a minute here, because when we get too far ahead, I just wanted you to make sure that you don't get polarized and thinking that any of this has to do with the human male or the human female's limitation, okay? Because this is bigger. Now we're about to blow this up really quick because we've done enough of trying to explain this from the rudimentary mindset of the world. Now let me show you how this works in heaven or beyond heaven. First of all, heaven is not above, it is below. It is a haven. That's what they have now. They have havens, because they built their homes below, in the netherworld, in the underworld, not above in the lights, in the crystals, forces, and where the crystals project. That's what do they call that? Firmament, right? So that's above, right? So as above, so below. So what is the as above one and what is the as below one? Now, everybody's been tricked and fooled through the language. They've been bloodletting with the letters and casting spells with the spelling and cursing with the cursive and misusing the curves, right? And then they whirl with the words. They whirl everybody up, right? And everybody's dizzy, leaking, under a spell, cursed. That's what's happening, right? So this means that you got to really look at words and really decipher them. That's the code of the matrix. And so the havens are below. And so they go to haven. So let's talk about who they are. Well, obviously they're the divided ones. So who are the divided ones? Us. So if you came here today to actually find some nefarious creature that you can go and attack and blow your trumpet about that you now know about, now you've been a little disarmed because you need to find out first that it is yourself. And you need to get comfortable with talking about yourself and how you really are. Okay? Because how we are is what we're creating. And this may allow me to even shorten today's presentation so you have enough time to actually think about your deeds and what you've been doing. As I have to sit down and think about my deeds and what I've been doing, because my actions are creating something. And the problem here on earth is the same problem that's going on with the trash. When we throw things away, we think it's gone. I throw something in the trash, it's gone. It's not gone. It's piling up somewhere, right? Take a moment to think about that. Just think about that, because this is the best metaphor. It's like the trash. They call it the klipot. They call it the shade, the shaddai, the shadow. It's like the trash, the excrement. And it's because when you think something crazy, I'll kill that fool. You think they talking to. When you have anxiety, I'm gonna pay my bill. All that is your trash. That is your excrement. And while you think, just because you got over it and you know, oh, okay, I was able to borrow some money from Tom, so everything's good. Everything's good now. And you think that that energy that you just gave off is gone. It's not gone. It went somewhere. And it congealed. It fermented. And it produced a life. It's called an abortion. Okay, this is now Kabbalistic now, the abortions, okay? They get into it about the daughter of the queen of the earth. It's not the queen of the earth. That's why a lot of people get confused. The daughter of the queen of the earth was the one that wanted to procreate and create. Eve is the daughter of the queen of the cosmos. Okay, not the queen of the cosmos. Don't get it confused. And she wanted to produce. And because she could not do it properly, which is in the rites of Isis, trying to take Osiris's genitals and create something with it, she created an abortion, a shade, something that is partial, fragile. Okay? So this is how the human lives began. This is why humans are divided, male and female. Okay? So what we're talking about is we're talking about that. So take all the people in the world, like, let's say, for instance, you got this whole neo-Nazi party, right? And they hate all day. And there's at least 1 million of them. It's probably way more, 200 million. There's 9 billion of us here. So their energy, right? Their coalesce energy of all that hatred is one shade. Okay? That's one being that it gets formed from the congealment of all of those beings thinking and breeding a certain kind of thought. And that's what, let's say, if you want to say a demon or a daemon, that's what that is. But like I said, or like my mom said, James, if you think you bad, there's always somebody badder. That is right. Because even as powerful as that force, as far as its demonics and evil and all that may seem, it'll even get consumed by another force, a whole nother force that says, hey, you think that what you're talking about is really evil? I kill entire nations. I don't even like black people, white people, nobody. But because you've got on this slippery slope already, thinking that there's a separation between one and another, you've been fooled too. And now I'm going to consume you. Okay. So this is, as it talks about in the real Kabbalah, what happens when a being gets consumed by an archon. Now, here's something I really want to let you understand right away, okay, is that while the archons are divided forms within themselves, no different than your organs, okay? Archons or organs. Archons are planets, okay? Archons are celestial bodies, okay? They are bodies. We are bodies, okay? So no different than me and you at all. Actually, what we are, and I'm just going to break down a lot of other stuff that you heard in the conscious community and why people want to remove their chakras, which is impossible, and all these kind of different things, because they are also getting these images and projections and knowledge and information, and they're trying to put all this stuff together, and they get a bit confused in their path of actually realizing clarity and what's really happening here. Let me check my sound. Everything looks good. Okay? So what happens here, what I'm getting at is I don't want you to see the archons as evil, because if you do this, you are then seeing yourself as evil, and this leads to a road of depression. Now, that part of you is one, that emo pain body, the one that likes to feel sorry for itself, the one that wants to feel like nobody is helping it, and the world and my trees and my nature and what are we doing, and all of that side of self. That is what you will be going. So what I'm saying here is that this force here and these forces here are all about choice. Okay? Thank you for that confirmation. Sound is great. Choice. This is why somebody the other day, they got on, they sounded so wise. We don't really have choice. Who do you think you have choice? You can't even blah, blah, blah. And everybody was like, you're right, we don't have choice. And I'm like, man, you guys will listen to anybody. Anybody who grow a beard and look like they got some knowledge, you listen to them, even if they're not even saying stuff that makes sense. You do have a damn choice. You can decide whether or not every single day how you're going to balance out your energy, where you're going to go and be pissed off again, because that's why they say that you got to observe yourself. This is what, when you're not talking, right? And you just sit back and you observe yourself, you'll see a pattern. There you go again. You're pissed off again. Somebody sent you a crazy email. Look at you. Now what are you going to go do? I'm going to tell you what you're going to go do. You're going to go in there and you're going to smoke some weed, right? And then you're going to think of some clever shit. Then you're going to come back and you're going to write that. But guess what? You did that yesterday. You did that the day before. And the older you get, you're going to keep doing this. And unless you recognize your pattern, because once you recognize your pattern, then you're able to see, well, shit, I'm in a pattern, and it'll spook you. You're like, shit, I want to die in this pattern. So there's first that moment of realization, and then there's the correction through the choice of realizing that if you let these powers, because these are the powers, these are the principalities, these are the rulers, this is the dominion. Okay? So if you let this get out of control, I'm going to show you, it's so omniscient. Okay? It's so omniscient. Give me 1 minute. Looking good. That even a person, as we saw the body, okay, because we see the body, I'll just use mine as an example, right? So let's say, for instance, and let me just get my chart here. Give me a quick second here. Okay. Okay, there it is. Can I say, I know I did that. Okay. So let's say, for instance, then that in this case, we'll say that my heart, okay, like the main component of the heart is to be loyal. Okay? As I say, you do it with your heart. Put your heart into it, right? And something that your heart is into, you will always uphold. It's like a loyalty thing. But if I stop being loyal, I become a deceiver, okay? So one part of the archon is loyal. The other part is the deceiver, okay? This is how this works. Let's say this is your organ, just one gem, okay? And now, if I choose to deceive consistently with this organ, with this power, which is like, again, it's a shrunken down power of a greater force, a massive force. So this is the ultimate universe. As I said, it's ultimate universe, ultimate university. The payment is pain. Okay? So in this process, if I keep feeding this archon or organ with the ideas that it can be deceptive and not loyal, also I keep pinging. I want to draw this right. I'm going to draw this very simply. This is you, okay? This is the higher self, if you may, okay? So what would happen is, and again, the board is not that dark, but hey, you get it. You can see it. Okay? So what I'm drawing here is you're in a smaller one that can control the bigger one and can give you access to the bigger one, but this is what makes the system omniscient. It's incredible. It's built on the Unity code. It's an omniscient system because when you're making decisions here, you're pinging the bigger one up here. And this is how you can get consumed either way. Okay, and I'm going to show you some knowledge here, some secrets about how the whole thing works. So let's say, for instance, I'm continuously in deceptions. I'm also sending energy to the deceptive side of the larger archonic force, while inside of me, I'm also feeding energy to that part of me's deceptive side, or inverted or distorted side. And I'm giving it more. See, you can't even say that you're giving it energy, because it's in the opposite direction of energy. That's why it's a shade. It's not a light. It's actually giving it it's like a cloud, a smoke, a dark vapor of some sort. Okay? It's opposite to light in every tense. So what happens is, if I keep feeding that, here's also what happens. Eventually in life, my demise, like how I leave, will be because heart failure. Okay? I just want you to get this very clear. This is how it all works. If I feed the deceptive side of my heart, my end on earth will be because of my heart. My heart will fail. Okay? And then, because it's not over, it's never over. When life ends, life begins, right? We know, Ouroboros, the end is but the beginning. So where am I going to go? Well, where did I put all my energy in? Now, here's another thing before I even explain that. Remember, that's what I'm saying. Ennealogy is a big key to all of this, because I am predominantly resonating one planetary system, one archon, the day that I'm born. This is the discernment of spirits. So if I'm let's say a number 6, which 50% of the people in the world are 6s. That's wild. Okay? 6 is the number of Venus. Okay? That's why Venus has been seen as the heart, right? Like Venus is the heart chakra. I will get into some other stuff later, but 50% of the people on the world are Venus. For whatever reason, whether we come from Venus or whether Venus birth, that's another show. But out of all of the other paths, and there's 9, 50% of the people are on this path, dealing with their heart. Okay, so because that designation is there, that only means that I need to be born on the 6th. So if I'm born on the 15th, 1 + 5 is 6. If I'm born on the 6th, if I'm born on the 24th, any of those numbers will put me on that path. Then I can call you out. I can call out myself. If I know enough about ennealogy, I know enough about Jordan's numerology, if I know that I can call you out from the way that you move, to how you postulate yourself, to what you say, to how you reflect when I say something to you, even if I trigger you with certain words. So that's why anybody who knew this language of life knew everything. More importantly, though, because its original use, as the Sufis were using it, and even before then they were using it. G.I. Gurdjieff tried to say that he found it and he created it. None of that is true. This stuff is old, it's ancient, it belongs to nobody. But it was about the discernment of spirits, because the moment that you're born, first of all, any real sage can tell you right away what path you're on. But if I just met you and I listen to you talk about yourself for a minute, I could tell you what path you're on, right? And then from there, that literally means that you have this certain kind of personality. And this is why we need to be aware of this, because this is a pattern. This lets us see that this diagram, in fact, is true. That people are being born into an archonic or a yantric or a machine. That the body is a machine, a machination. Don't look at this like, your tractors and your printing presses. We're not talking about that kind of machine. They stole that. We're talking about Ma's light, Ma's sheen. Your mother's light, a sheen is a light. Okay? So this machine that is created is formed from all of these forces. Okay? So now you're connecting a few things here. You're connecting, okay, so the moment that I come in this, I'm coming in through a planet. The planet is a womb. Okay? And more than likely, how I got into that particular womb, that out of the 9 wombs, let's say, and I know everybody's got their own number systems. They're all lost and confused about the number thing, which we're going to get it clear here in a minute. But when you're gestating through a womb, because all of these were seen to be wombs, like I say, the 7 stars of the Pleiades, and all of those are the mothers of the earth, and Electra, and all of this and this and this and this. It's all wombs, okay? But why would you be coming through a womb, and what determines what womb you come through? Remember this? So if last life you were still struggling with your heart and being loyal and not deceiving, then your next gestation is going to be coming out as that force predominantly. You're going to be, so like I said, and if this is like, let's make it easier. I draw a great stickman. If this is the chakras, hopefully that's visible. I'm drawing circles here. Okay? So if this is the chakras, and they light up like lights, when you're born, this one is turned on. You see what I mean? So the light, or the house that has the light, is the one that you're functioning from the most. So all your characteristics and all your traits are going to be akin to that. And that's how we can peep you out. That's how we can discern your spirit. That's how we can understand really what archon, if you may, or what organ, if you may, you're predominantly working with. Okay? So that should be very clear, because I don't want this to at all seem like it's at all has any gaps. Give me 1 minute. So there's no gaps here. You know how you came in, you know why you came in, you know where you came in, and if you study this enough, you'll know when you came in. Are we clear? I know, man. You could tell, man, some folks are going to be here lifetimes. I'm even trying this time to not make this a multiple lifetime lesson. Because when you start seeing this and you peep this out, you realize some are still playing with it. They can't even get this. They're trying to figure out how not to keep being who they are, but that's something they don't even care about. They're so stuck in their little ways and stuck in who they think they are. And they think that is so unique. And if I can call you out, if I can tell you what you like to drink, what color you want to wear, what words you normally say, if I can call all that out, that means there's nothing about you that is original. And it may be a blow to your character. It may be a blow to that fragile half body that you've been living in. But if you can take this strong dose of medicine, you can cross the hebdomad. See, that's why I say people get confused with the numbers, because is it 7? Is it 9? And let me explain this to you, right? Because people are continuously being sunk in lower worlds, lifetime after lifetime. So 7, let's just talk about why numbers don't even really exist. They're not the predominant thing. We use them now, but they were never the predominant thing. Sequence was the predominant thing. Why? So the other day I asked one of my sisters about this knowledge and how they derived that you can add up the birthday and get this number, and that this number was going to tell you everything about the person and how that would cross over in the Gregorian calendar. Okay? Like, so basically, if the ancients were using one calendar and that calendar doesn't match up to the Gregorian calendar, how can we even use these numbers? That was my question. I'm always asking the big question. And what was derived from the response to that question was powerful knowledge, which was mainly that we never did like a month from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 7 days of the week. And then we keep rolling it out until we're like at the 30th day or the 31st day. And then we go to the first of the day again. That doesn't matter in ancient times. What mattered was the sequence of the planets. That's it. So today, it was always in that same order. First it's the sun, then it's the moon, then it's Mars. And this has been going on for thousands of years. Because why? Here's the big head crack. It's bigger than we think. That each of those days of the week, just like they said, people would worship them. There were people who started worshiping an external version of them. Okay? And they became known as the gods. So instead of those that wanted to worship themselves, build up themselves, because it makes no sense to think about, this is how off you can see humanity has gotten in history, to think that you can sacrifice yourself to a god and somehow climb up a ladder. First of all, you just terminated yourself. So there's no climbing up anything. You would only be able to worship yourself, make the right decisions, and then climb up your chakras and activate more chakras. But if you saw this externally, the God externally would never let you climb up to another chakra. They would never want you to go and worship another God. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if there was 7 days of the week, let's say in this tense, and each day was a God, do you think a God, especially a jealous God, which everybody's dealing with in the Bible, do you think a jealous God would want you to go and worship another God? No, that's what it's very clear about. Also, just like in Freemasonry, every God seems to have a name that signifies that they're the highest one. Grand Inquisitor Inspector. General of the sunken and forgotten land and master of the realm. It's almost like, well, which one is better? That's how we normally think. Who's higher, right? And true enough, there is a hierarchy in there, but every single title sounds like it's the highest one. And this is the game that has been being played on the humans for a prolonged period. We'll come back to this in a minute. I just want to give you a sidebar to show you how that works. I was talking to my brother Life the other day, and he was saying him and his wife were sitting in, and they were thinking about this idea about how society at this point is everybody wants to be a millionaire, okay? And we'll just say million right here, okay? So you see it, right? Everybody wants to be a millionaire, right? However, when you take this word, it says ilyon, okay? Ilyon, okay? This in Hebrew is elyon, or also known as ha elyon, also known as the Most High God, okay? But if you understand Gnosticism, you know that elyon is actually only one of the spheres inside of Behemoth, and actually one of the lower spheres. I think it actually hits 0.3 in the 7. So this means that in the world, humans are being groomed to just want to be illions, to make millions. Oh, I want to be a millionaire. And of course, they never achieve it. They listen to silly folks like Gary Vaynerchuk or whatever his name is. Oh, post all day, you can become a millionaire. People like Ty Lopez. Oh, you're going to become a millionaire. And then they adapt this millionaire culture, right? Which is fat cigars and Ferraris and looking like you're worth something and getting your hair and your nails and your tailor-made and all this kind of stuff, right? Because it is a cult of ilyon, okay? And this has been going on, right? You're not the first one to try to ride this rodeo. And also, you know that most people never become millionaires. And you know that, okay, so there's only a few millionaires in the reality, and then they act like that they're higher, like they're higher gods or something. They act like they're higher than everybody else. And then, of course, people debase themselves or put themselves lower because they're like, I don't have $1 million. And that's just one of the archons. This is what I'm working on getting at here. So remember, as above, so below. So let me explain that very clear, how also you get these two different worlds, because it will be the world that one goes to, whether they make based on the decisions that they make. So there are two worlds then. There's the world that, so when you're doing something, let's say, for instance, they say you're supposed to store up your riches in the haven. Now they weren't lying about that. Because those people who do anything to get money and debase themselves, they're going to the haven with Elyon. And they're going to live there as servants and slaves of Elyon. Okay? Versus, because of that, though, and this is how you have power. When you have unity, you have power. Because if that works that way, then it also lets you know that if your deeds are great and noble, then those deeds too are stacking up somewhere. Now get this, because this is the main point of the entire presentation today. Those deeds are building up something somewhere. And this is where this concept of building in the mansion in Father's heavens and all this was really about, because it's saying when you do something noble and great, what it does is, just like when you get a nasty little attitude and that energy coalesces within the negative side or in distorted side of an archon, so too, when you do something noble, that energy crystallizes and becomes a building block in another space that you would say is the as above. And when you do enough of that, those building blocks form together and they make a house. And then when you gestate or pass through this realm, which everybody is going to do, quote unquote, die, which is the one when you divide and you go lower and then you become a servant to an archon and you live in a haven that you built because of your deeds. Instead of that, you rise into this space that you inhabit, not because you sat on your ass all day, not because you judged everybody, not because you made a bunch of money, not because of any of that, but because you actually were true to yourself, true to your ancestors, the ones that are practicing the laws of maintaining balance, true to your intuition, meaning that you don't need anybody to tell you what's right and what's wrong. You have your own intuition to tell you that, your own discernment. You know when you're doing something that's off. Now you got to go and balance it out. But if you're not balanced, what's going to happen? What's going to become of you? Some people act like that's such a mystery. It's not a mystery. They've just been lying to everybody. What happens is when you partake with them, see, that's what's happening in society, because we have been oblivious to how all this works, and we haven't been working for ourselves, working together to actually create things that assist others. We've been working at jobs that create devices that enslave us. We've been making medicines, cars, all these different things that accumulate excrement. So where are you going to go and live if you've been tricked by the inverted, distorted archons? You're going to go and live as slaves in their world. And the difference is, this is why you don't see Earth. 1, 2, 9. What do we got? 5. That's Monday. Sunday. Sun. Mon. Tues. Wednesday. Thursday. Friday. And Saturday. Okay? 1, 2, 9, 5, 3, 6, 8. The sun, the moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, also known as Yahweh or Diddy. When this is inverted, Jupiter, that's why you got Jehovah. It's Jehovah or Didymas. That's the name for the inverted archonic version of Jupiter. So all the abundance, hoarding all the abundance for itself. You know, all of the correlations of this particular planetary system. Normally, this is a conductor, right? Jupiter's power is a conductor. It's like the master orchestrator, the one that's orchestrating all the orchestra, right? And so when it's betraying itself, because that's all it's doing, it becomes worthless. That's the klipot. Something that could be so great and do so many things becomes worthless. That's what even a Jupiterian mindset, that's what they're afraid of, is just being worthless. Right? So we keep going here. So now you got Freya, which is Friday, which is Venus. And then you have 8, which is Saturn. Right? Where's Earth? Where is Earth? You also have number 4. You have number 7. 4, which is Rahu. The other one, which is Ketu. This is supposed to be the nodes of the moon, the north node and the south node. Even though I have a feeling that this is really Ouroboros. This is the front, because that's called the dragon, the Rahu, the head of the dragon, Ketu, the tail of the dragon, or the body, well, actually the head only, and this the body all the way to the tail of the dragon. And what I believe is that, as it says Ouroboros or gut around the planet, and then they always show half of it as white, and then the other half as dark, I believe that that's Rahu and Ketu. But where's Earth? This is the big head crack of the century. Earth is not here because Earth doesn't get worship. Earth is a slave. That's what's happening. People have lost their awareness of what the hell is even going on. The archons have tricked them so much. And again, because it's inside of us. It's not something doing it to us. It is us doing it to ourselves. It is choosing instead of upholding the nobility. Upholding nobility is what? The sun, Adonai, perfectionist. He who is perfect, not a male or a female. It's an androgen, perfect. 2, the moon, aura, the nurturer, sustainer, right? 9, Mars, the mediator, the peacemaker. 3, Jupiter, the conductor, the orchestrator, big guru. 6, Venus, the loyalist. Right? She's there for you. Always. 8, Saturn, the leader. These are still Aura, Sabaoth, Yahweh, Astaphaeos, and Yaldabaoth. So, again, that person that keeps coming with that dualistic, oh, that's the bad one. Earth is bigger than your duality, homie. I say folks don't even talk to me anymore after the Venus and the Lucifer versus Satan thing. They think I'm a Luciferian Satanistic. You see what I mean? Because they refuse to understand the balance. But then this is because they have ate from the other plate. The sun then becomes anger, burning with fury. The moon becomes the starver. She's no longer the nurturer. She will starve everybody. No one will eat. Mars then becomes a war god, loves conflict. No more a mediator or a protector and trying to hold the space. Now I want conflict, war, right? And then Jupiter, instead of conducting, now is worthless. All that fat, all those jewels, all those diamonds, worthless. It means nothing. Venus, she becomes a deviant. She's no longer loyal. These hoes ain't loyal. Where do you think that comes from? She becomes the prostitute. And then you have Saturn, who instead of being a leader becomes weak and feeble. An old man on his cane now. He's weak. When he was the leader, he was the strength. That's the archons, okay? So when we think about this, we no longer have to go any further than ourselves. So I want to let everybody know Starting next week on Friday, inside of Ambassador Training, if you've been debating or not whether or not you want to jump in, we're going to begin the training on enealogy. We're going to start off with the introduction. Now, the archives will always be there, but if you're looking at getting in on this right when it begins, that's the greatest time. Starts next Friday. And also in the realization of what we're saying here, because I'm not done yet. In fact, I may have to take a little break. I'm going to take a little break. Because I'm not done. I got one more thing for you to realize. If this wasn't enough motivation for you to get yourself together, this is about you. I'm not talking about any deities and all that. I don't doubt that it's up there. And I don't doubt that it's down there. But what I'm saying is, what does that matter if you can't realize what's going on in here? And then once you realize what's going on in here, it's the same thing that's going on up there and down there. Now you have ultimate power. Now, once you get into unity, now you're able to see the light side and you're able to see the dark side. Now you're able to figure out where the middle is. You're able to figure out your calibration. Now you also know faith without works are dead. So that way, if you toil in this field, in this garden, as a maiden or a husbandman, and you actually take care and you nurture, and you be loyal, and you fulfill all of the sides of what is necessary, at least keep your balance more going on one. I'm not saying everybody, trying to be good all the time is difficult, but I'm saying watch your scale. That's why they told you my aunt's going to be there. Like, okay, so let's see what happened. Lots of time in the club. Wow, that's a lot of selfies. So what did you do? What should we know you for? Should we know you for the perked up? Should we know you for that? Because that's not feeding the children here. Because it should have dawned on us all that that's how it would all work, and that's why we're not encouraged to do great things. Because that builds up, that starts getting your name on a list somewhere. Like, hey, that little foundation thing over there that looks like another mansion is coming up. Yeah, that's Lakita. And I think she's getting it. This is great. Let's send some more assistants down there. Let's send some more vibrations because she's starting to vibe with this. And I see her antennas are picking up. That's not what's normally happening. What's happening is, the distorted side of the archonic forces who have an endless amount of representatives. It's so easy to slide down the hill. That's what Freemasonry is. They're building with demons. It's so many things should be so clear for you after this as it soaks in. It's like one of those things like a massage, like 2 or 3 days, you're going to start really feeling this and feeling the impact. And as questions come to your mind from the whisperer, you're going to be able to easily answer those questions and push that aside. Be like, oh, shoot, no wonder why all of this. No wonder. Oh, for sure. It makes sense that I would go to a place that I built and that my deeds and my actions and my energy and my essence is what's building those places. However, if I'm building in one way, that's going down there. And if I'm building on another way, that's going up there. And then when I gestate, come through the womb, I'm going to go through the chakra or through the heart that I've perfected. And then I'm going to go and inherit that side of that space. And then that space is going to be connected with the totality. And this is why it's like, if I see you there, it'll be because we went into alignment. If I don't see you there, that's because you went into distortion. This is how it all works. This is how we can ensure we can guide our ships. This is what knowledge was left to us by our ancestors. How did they leave it? We're in the body of it. Not necessarily the writings and all of that kind of stuff, the numbers and all that kind of stuff. It was the actual experience. And we have, by grace and compassion, now this way of breaking it down further. But is that going to convince you really to do anything? Now, some, they work like that. They'll hear this and they'll be like, yo, I'm tightening up. But others, it's just going to become another dogma. And they're going to play with it. And like I said, you got multiple lives to play with it. There's no rush. These beings want you to stay in division. But here's a couple things. I'm going to come back with the final part of this. But one of the main things to be aware of is that as you descend into the netherworld, and I can show you so many things that explain this, even in life and in nature, you have less control. You get more into what we call instinct, right? Stinky inside. No, I'm joking. I didn't think that like that. Just discard that. I was just joking. Instinct. Okay? Instinct is like a confinement in itself because you can only move based on your urges, right? That's why they say the human being is such a gift because you can actually resist those urges. That's what the Tibetan and Buddhists and all that, that's what they live on. They're like, you can resist these urges. You can choose to go do something else, or you can even practice exercises. That's what I'm saying. It's not all about just being good. You can practice exercises that allow you to become a balanced being. But if you only feed into those urges, and you're only listening to the divisive force, then what happens? You build up with the demons. You build your world and your haven with them, and they're tricky. That's why they always were seen as liars and tricksters, because they're not saying to you that you're building your own prison. Do you see the connection here? In the world, as the technology keeps coming and all this new stuff is happening, we're basically building our own prison, right? If we don't realize what's going on. And that's why if somebody says, so Stephen, what should I do? What should I focus on? What should I do? Sovereignty 2020. Get sustainable. Pull out some money from the bank if you have great credit. Go buy some land. Get some batteries from Elon and all this technology that they've been stealing about sustainability, and buy that shit. It's as simple as that. And get your house sustained. Plant some trees so you can eat from them. If you need the fish, make a pond. And then so you'll be able to sit back when you're done and say, you know what? I don't really have anxiety right now, because if I don't go to work today, it's not like me, my family, my mothers, my brothers, and my sister are all going to starve and not have a place to stay. Okay? Because I made a decision that was more of a grounded, mature decision that just has to do with me, instead of focusing about buying a 2020 Toyota Tercel with the four. Now the Toyota Tercel look like the big Mercedes. You know what I mean? Because it's trying to get you to stay in. Instead of doing that, let me go buy some land somewhere. Let me go look at Costa Rica. Or let me go look at one of these places where the land is still cheap. They got mangoes and papayas and coconuts and all that growing on the land already. You throw a seed on the ground, it sprouts up overnight. We have to chop down the mango trees. Mangoes are invasive. As much as you love a mango, imagine this, mangoes are invasive. This means that if you put a mango tree there and you wait for it to go through the full bloom, by the time it's done, the mangoes that land on the ground, and about 4 or 5 weeks later, are already sprouting up new mango trees, okay? The world is abundant, but this scarcity that we're dealing with, this Scythian, this is really the last final opponent. And FYI, this is World War IV. 3 happened and was fought with a whole different kind of weapon. That's why things don't feel the same anymore. That's why it's hard to find friends. People are looping in their mind. They're saying the same thing over and over again. You meet them and again, and they're same demeanor, same comments, same statement, because they're in a groove. They're in a groove in their consciousness. They still are not listening to who they really are. They're so busy trying to be something else, getting encouragement from Ilyan and all the rest of the trapped, distorted, fragile forces that have no power. Only a third fell. So this means that 33 1/3 of the demons. So only a third of the consciousness is really about that kind of life, while 666 or 66.6 of the consciousness is still in heaven. Like, yo, we trying to see greater things. I'm not trying to be a slave down there. But that's why this machination in society has to work so hard at hiding these secrets. They hide the shit out of this. This was pretty simple. When you think about it, like if we just had this, like it would solve tons of problems. That's why all the time I'm always working. It's like, yo, Once this genealogy is done for adults, we can repurpose for genealogy kids. We have a process and a procedure that we can go through. Instead of trying to start a community with a bunch of people who just want to argue all the damn time, let's first put in a way for us all to understand the mediation and who we are and how to communicate with each other. Check. Okay, next, let's work with a template. Figure out what kind of sustainable technologies and the best place for us to actually put those technologies are. Okay, check. All right, so now from then on, we just work on keeping the bodies in balance and actually being able to activate and open up who we truly are in order to rebuild the bridge and maintain connection with the ancestors who chose to go that route in the future. Check. That's it. So all of the Pseudepigraphas and the Apocryphas and the Sefer Sephiras and the Kabbalistic codes and all of that, those are the distorted, fragile, high maintenance lives that no one really wants to live. And if it wasn't for Ilyan and the rest of the false energy systems that are around this planet trying to encourage us that that is the way to go, then we would see that very clearly. Go with yourself. So we're going to take a break. Just a moment, and we're going to come forward, and I want to explain something to you that lets you understand that you don't have all day to figure out if you want to do all of this or not. You don't have an infinite existence to just sit down and do that, the pose, and Buddy's looking into hell, by the way. You know that one pose like that? I forgot what it's called, but if you read about that, the Buddy is looking into hell and kind of blown away by what he's seeing, which is in itself a metaphor. So when we come forward, I want to explain something to you that not too many people have clicked and put together about what we're going into next. Well, first of all, let me correct that. What others may be going into if they choose to keep following that path with their blind god Sackless, and what you can inherit if you just become aware of what's happening and you start working on yourself and understanding the space that you're in. So that's what it is. Let's take this moment. Also, family, if you want to get some water, if you want to relight your incense, if you want to get yourself together, stretch out, this is a perfect time. got 5 more minutes. If you want to know what that time is looking like, you got 5 minutes. More minutes, family. If you're still in there, let's keep it going. One more master gem box. Big treasure chest. All right, family, so here we go. So, this is for my family. This is for my tribe. I'm not here by mistake. The experience that I went through to get to this level of awareness of self already showed me about how all of this, it's almost like, some people come to the awareness of the matrix by entirely different means. Like, I'm sure that there's certain elements that you can take and it's going to blow the whole thing open for you. But something happens when you travel the front door, meaning that when you're not on like some kind of substance or something, and then you happen to experience the great beyond and the continuum, it has this way of you never can really return to that stage of consciousness anymore. And this is why I always would say that even things like ayahuasca and DMT, they can do great things for a person in that moment. But sometimes it becomes like a dream for those kind of beings. After a few days, they start forgetting that they even saw what they saw. And then after a week, they're back to acting like they're divided again. And then in a month, they don't even remember anything from the journey and even have problems with who was doing the journey with them and all that kind of stuff, right? Because that's kind of the back door. And it's because it leaves a layer. Let me make sure that I'm coming through clear here. So it leaves a layer. What it is that every time you go to sleep, there's a layer of fog or film or mist that's put in between you and what you would say is actuality. Okay? So when I started coming to awareness of what I'm telling you right now, obviously everything in my consciousness, almost like a Rubik's Cube, it just starts moving and rearranging and because it's like, what happens is if you really believe something is true, it should start changing really the way that you function, or else you don't really believe it's true. That's kind of like the difference between also the front door and the back door. Sometimes you come off this journey and then after a while you're back to it again. Like, I've gone through the front door and then for days been like, man, what am I in? How did I get here? Why did that? But know that it's real. And then also anybody you go onto those kind of journeys with, you can look at them and be like, do you see that? And they'll be like, you mean and they'll describe it right to the T, proving to you that this is not just coming from your consciousness. So I dive into things and I've been into things like that. And what happens is that, so the tutelage continues. It's like, okay, so now that you know this, now be aware of this. Not think, be aware of this. How are worlds really created anyway? How did the archon, the organ, and everything generate itself anyway? And where is the stopping and starting point to something like that, since it's finite, right? We're not talking about the all. We're talking about a fragile, divided part. When did this begin? And when I started putting that in the cooker, first of all, what came across is, first of all, there's the orbit, right? So the orbits that you see, which you can time lapse in the sky yourself, whether it's a real dome, whether it's just lights, or all the gas that you want to drink that doesn't allow you to see what is obvious, which is whatever this vault is doing with the lights and how it spins, and those cycles and those turns of those specific dots do mean a lot in relation to time cycles, because it seems to me that that's like modeled after a clock. It's modeled after a clock. So if I'm trying to tell time with this kind of clock, as I'm going further with this concept, I would start wondering how the pieces got in the clock anyway. And when you go to the ancient books, it'll only say things like blah, 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 did this and this, and then they got put in that place in the stars. That's what they say, right? So instead of getting into the individual stories about the small stars and their little thing going on out there, the big stars are clearly created by none other than the composition of everybody that has gone through a particular Anu epoch world at one period, okay? And this is why it feels just like to me, because I'm the only one feeling from myself, that the people and the beings that are around me, that we've been together in some way, shape, or form before. Something was going on at another stage. And now here we are, and all of these scenarios are presenting themselves. We don't know who we are, all this stuff going on, blah, blah, blah. So I collapse all of that into a synthesis, and then come into realizing that these cycles that we're going through, like even this one right now, everybody that was with me, everybody that heard and listened, etc., connected, all the people I connect to, people connect to me, etc., when this one closes, that will be a star, okay? That will be a chakra. okay? Because everybody's memories and everything that we did and everything that we experienced, even stuff that we didn't even see from the other angles and the other ways of perception, is all going somewhere. This is what I keep trying to get everybody to realize, because if you don't realize this, then what I'm going to say next to you won't make any sense. But when you do realize this, you realize, okay, so everything's coalesced together. And then when it wraps, because it's important that you understand the end and the beginning of anything finite has an end and the beginning. So no matter how long you may think it's been here, there was a beginning and an end, versus the all, there is no, it's immovable. So there's no ends and beginnings and all that kind of stuff. So you can start asking the big, real questions to your consciousness, and then it'll spit out the answer. So one of the answers is very directly that when we close this session, this level of brightness in which we achieve, we will be known for. And I'm not going to be known throughout the cosmos as a being that did not take the lessons that I was given. Not try to sometimes even try to figure it out. There's already enough that you know, and you just haven't made certain decisions about what you need to actually do about it. And that's why you listen to more stuff, because then it kind of convinces you to do things more. This is why they also say that spiritual experiences, the real ones, are the ones that sometimes make people do things more. Because that divided, fractured side of yourself that I was talking about earlier, what happens is that part of you is, I shouldn't even drawn it that big. Let's say here, it's like our own little system here. Then we got the big one, and then we have the totality, okay? So what will happen is that this will get swallowed up into this, and then we'll get swallowed up into this. If you learn how to bring your system in balance. And in this state of consciousness and awareness, this is what you want to reach. This is, if you said protection, if you said wealth, riches, if you said any of those kind of things, that's why they just call this the sevenfold spirit, the ninefold spirit, or whatever, because it's basically saying this, in this totality, this is where you'll be going. This is where you'll be protected. This is where you'll be safe. Okay? So to build that for yourself, because it's all up to you, you only need to take what I'm saying today, start realizing how that all applies to you, and then also look into reality and say, well, everything that we've all done here, that's all written somewhere. And I know that's the whole thing about the divided character. It doesn't want people looking into its personal life. It doesn't want to ever think about the idea that someone is able to, or something will be able to replay your life like it's a DVD or something and watch it in 360 degrees from all angles when you're in your frail, broken self, right? And this is subconsciously what is weighing on human beings and keeping them in this fake divided mode with each other. And this hampers, if you ever talked to or seen real people who have talent that actually play instruments and these kind of things, we all have talent, but when they unlock that talent, it's always because they're just wide open, so wide open that they're able to tap into other things. They're not thinking about, is he staring at me playing a guitar? Did he hear me play the note bad? I just shot that brick. Did they see me and feel that they were mad at me because I shot that brick? That can't go on. And the only haven, that's a meditation, the only haven you have away from that, or let me watch the words. I guess that technically would be a haven if the broader thing is so much more beyond this, but I do want to put everything in the proper context of his words. If you are looking for the space in your consciousness, this is a good diagram to know. If you want to know where you can take refuge, and I'm bringing this up because this part of you is so weak, this divided fake you that keeps being loaded every day because of the groove, it cannot really withstand what's to come. This is not just a warning, it's a gift to know this. The divided consciousness will not be able to withstand. It will need a refuge. It will try to find a God. That's what external people are going to do. They're going to try to find a God. And I'm going to explain to you how it's here already. And it's about to reveal itself. I also want to say that in the encrypted codes, because Solomon died today, Solomon, or not today, but a few days ago, symbolically, what's happening is that, remember, there were many demons or daemons. The third, Solomon actually, as a metaphor, as a being, remember, that's Solomon's temple, so it's big stuff that I don't want to get into now. That's another show. That's like Orion and the giants and all this kind of stuff. But this particular being, creation, force, form, enslaved other beings to build its world. Okay? So just like, it happened in Kemet. It happened in Rome. It happened in the Inca and the Mayan territories. It happened in Kandy and in Persia. It happened everywhere. Mispower management. Look, all this power and all this force, and we're paying for power? There's an ocean wave that comes through so strong. If you just put a propeller or something there and let that thing wipe that and then run a cable from it, I'm not a dummy here. I don't got to be like some kind of rocket scientist, nuclear genius to figure out that if we're still paying for power, that is the force that is controlling. So first of all, if we stop paying for power by sustaining ourselves, I'm giving you some solutions. That's a level up, right? Like that changes your vibrational frequency. If you also stop depending on, let's say, the gratification in the way you feel when somebody does hit the like button or when someone does do certain things that, oh, that's a very nice painting, very nice drawing, any of that stuff. If you start sending that energy into your own collective and say, great, we're still moving with this, we're staying balanced, and stop holding and internalizing and shrouding out. I'm just giving you some actions here because I don't want to come in here with a conversation and then you don't have techniques to be able to start applying in your life every day to get you through this, or else I would just be a vain reciter. I would even be a problem. Somebody coming here, waking you up out of your sleep, telling you what you're really in, and then doing that without giving you solutions to actually do something about it. That's why I spent the last decade working on solutions. Well, what about my money? What about this? What if I'm not famous already? What if I'm still damaged? What if I don't like? And all I've been doing is running around creating, this is what you would do with this. This is what you would do with this. And then now, personally, as a being, I have to move on. And I would love for us all to move together. And that's how I came in this, and that's how it will always be. So I also want to say again that divided, fragile character needs to learn how to be comfortable inside of itself. And visually, you can see the divided character that has been built by the Western society, mind controls, all this stuff that you didn't have control over. Things that were done sneakily to you, if that's a word. The whole thing with the birth and the baby's weight and gold and, somebody say he's lost at sea and then claiming you, and then the curriculum and the Persians and, the curriculums being based on the Prussian system and the cheating and the lying and the stealings, the governments, all that kind of stuff. That's too much for a fragile being to be trying to process. And even and that's why I put this bigger D here, even for the bigger force that you gain sometime when you're empowering yourself off of that, like, I'm going to do something about this. You become still a bigger D. You get others with you. That's what, like I said, this whole white power and all this kind of stuff. It's just a bigger D. Now everybody is now together and they're going at it the wrong way still. Versus that final okay, I've arrived, I'm here, And I know I'm going to go through works here to do everything for so many different reasons. I can't tell you it's not just because of Earth, and Earth is an amazing being, and she's great, or it's great, and that the people you're around are your family, and that you should really look out for your family, and you shouldn't get caught up into divisions and skin colors and all this kind of stuff. I can just keep going on and on and on and on. But the case really is now is, do you feel it? Do you feel that your works are now needed and necessary? Your consciousness, you need to be responsible, since that those things are always trying to trigger you in places that you've already opened up. You got to be responsible for containing and disposing many of those, especially the viruses, because when you're bringing them to others, it's just like we can never get anywhere. That's why I was saying about learning about yourself, learning something with etiology, like to teach you communication. These are like the beginning. Not to mention, if we can get it deployed, and we can, to deal with children with it first. They don't need to go out and learn how to operate computers and code and all this kind of stuff. They need to learn how to communicate, because any of those, and know themselves, because any of those jobs anyway, they don't hire based on your skill training. They hire based on if you have experience. And the person who's making that decision is easily socially engineered into realizing that, hey, I may not know this completely, but give me a week and I'll be doing this and it'll work. And then that person seeing you and them will be like, come on. And that's how this really works, versus sitting here beating our head against the wall with non-conventional means. Now, here's the last thing. And I just wanted to make sure that you understand what to do, and you know who you are, or the work you need to go through to get into your total self. Here's a reason why. Now, I've also been tracking something for a prolonged period. I've been tracking certain gods, or quote unquote gods as you know them, certain vibrations and certain frequencies, certain doppelgangers. Just things like my own personal work. I don't get in here and just say everything. I only have 3 hours. I can go into this for a long time. And I'm always about, here's what you need to know and what's going to empower you. But on my side study, there are certain things I'm like, And the reason why I do that is because I really want to understand how long this has been going on, how deep it really is. It's kind of like a 4 thing. I'm a 4. So what happened is that I started to find this trail of a new world, a world that was being built. Now, many are aware of the term the New World Order and think that that is many things. And most of the time, they're just thinking. Because to know a world is to know how it was put together. Just like to know a body is to know how it was put together and, how it functions, right? So in climbing into that rocket ship, I started seeing that this new world was being constructed based on the real components that you use to construct a world. Spiritual belief, because belief is, like we talk about letters and bloodletting, the Kabbalistic code, spells, etc. It's like a pipeline into something. So just like you have these cords that are connecting your electronics and your products to other things, so too the words open up things and connect it to other things to transfer power from you and other forms into something. Okay? So we also know, and I'm only just speaking what we know, so you can realize that when you put 2 and 2 together, it starts to actually equal something. We also know that the TVs and electronics were like a receptacle for this, especially for a while. I literally had someone saying that, a friend that was one of the responsibilities of waking me up. He was saying that you need to know that as of last year, the alien grays, and this is exactly what he said, are no longer able to come through the TVs, but they were. And he said that especially at night when the white would come on and most people would be asleep from watching their last show, that this form that had been built during these constructions of certain technology over not only World War II, but all the way even since the time of the pyramids, that there was a certain being that could travel through that force And now all of them, I will say, for instance, because this is deep knowledge, so you have to have the disclaimers around this. I won't say all of them are evil, but they were known as the Els, right? So just like I talked about Ha-Elyon, there were Els, which is also seen in our mythology as elves or angels, that also had certain kind of technologies and certain kind of things that they were aware of how to do in order to travel, to become omniscient in a non-omniscient space. Like once you start doing the upgrades, like they show you in Blade Runner and all these movies, once you start doing all these different upgrades, it becomes, you're just like one great upgrade after another. It's like one drug after another where you're trying to just figure out how to do different things like God is doing, but you don't have none of God's abilities anymore. So one of those was being omniscient, and that omniscience became the travel through electricity. Okay, that's why electricity, electron, and all that is that. These are eltrons. So what happened is that through time, the eltrons convinced humanity to basically open a gate to them. This is really what Aleister Crowley was working on for so long. Some of the eltrons that had been disposed of, basically was put in stasis, they convinced certain people through the vibration that they were holding, which was like a vibration of hatred, a vibration of separation. This is all it takes to open up a portal to the eltron. And at this point, what we find is that after several different works, lots of experiments, chemical experiments, chemistry, explosions, all these different things, military industrial complex, planes, lasers, and then finally AI. We find that was the predominant work, was to get to the point of an AI, a fabricated neural network. And rather than explain to everyone how this would work, you just need to understand that as a fleshly form, you still have a neural network that is making a bunch of the moves and things that you're conducting every day. And to ever think that couldn't be replicated in another form, you're mistaken. That's kind of known as a clone. First android, then clone. So these clones, we know for sure, especially for those who are worshiping these clones, this information is so deep because you'll be able to go back and verify everything that I'm explaining. That there were people who start worshiping these grays or these clones. And in this process, there were several suggestions about this world. That's why I was saying that was the time where these beings, along with the Venusians, visited the White House and started negotiating. What are we going to do with these nations? You have all these people underneath you. You have their signatures. You have their birth certificates, their children. See, what happens is that heavy is the head that indeed wears the crown. The more souls you have that you're in charge of, the more other beings start to look at you. So you may be a small timer at first, but when you start managing thousands, hundreds of thousands of souls, that's when they pay attention and not before then. So the U.S. and United States, in the way it was conducting itself, attracted the attention, not by the nuclear weapon. They were given the nuclear weapon. They attracted the attention because they had so many souls under them. Now, how this happened also is lost within the annals that Bill Cooper and his agent was trying to explain about what happened in the Aztec country in the end. Where was the connection with the sacrifices, the reptilians, Albert Pike, the KKK, Shambhala, the Great White Brotherhood, Dorial, the center of the earth. I'm just giving you keywords. The troglodytes, those who are incessantly adversaries. That's why they say, like, why would we be buying stuff anyway? Why won't we have someone taking care of us and loving us like a family would love their child and their kin if we weren't amongst some who didn't like us? I just want us to realize that there's, again, so much abundance, so much land. There's land that's not even being used. And so if you were the controller and you felt that everybody was your family, you would just give them the land. Go and plant some stuff over there and live. So there is one here with respite, meaning that it's like a challenge. That's all I can look at it now. But with this respite, they began to build basically our prison. And we have already lived. This is not something that some people say, when is this going to happen? We're living in it. We're living in a prison now. Nobody's going into nature. No one's actually realizing who they are. Everyone's looking at these devices, right? So we know this is fact. This is not somebody just wanting to talk and say something. What do we do about this? So what I see coming, and we already know what to do, okay? But what I see coming is, now, the reason why I brought up the Aztec countries is because one of the brothers that left Kemet, because the brothers, they fell out. Even the father, everybody fell out. And they took the knowledge. That's why the knowledge ended up even in Scotland. The knowledge ended up over there. They're all building on the cubit, which is the knowledge of the cube. So one of the brothers who was a tyrant, the king of Tyre, led these people like slaves. This is even where part of the Messiah story came from, MLK and Moloch and the horn god. And then the ultimate dissatisfaction of this king, and to a point where people felt like the only way we're going to please him is to give him our children. And man, you can imagine how that went. Imagine if in your heart you want to be loved so much that you give your own child. So this goes on, and of course it begets untold things. Waking other energy forms up that are primal, that are like caught into that kind of energy. And this is what they've been hiding. That's what created the KKK. That's why people hanged. That's why, whether it was black or white, there was segregation. It was all the commandments of the being that they had waken up, and that there's even books talking about them following and wandering for 40, they call it 40 years. But it's a code because it implicates Venus. Wandering. Is this the place we're supposed to be? No, keep going. Is this what you want? No, I don't like it. I don't like that. Now, when you think I'm just talking about it being external, think about sometimes how you treat yourself. Like you can talk to yourself that way. You're not good enough. I don't like that. Look at you. You're getting old. I think you need to do better. Spend more time doing that and forget about your children. That's sacrifice. I sacrifice my time with my children to do this. That's sacrifice. So you see, it's all still there. It's just under a GUI, a GUI, something people can't really see, an illusion, okay? So as it goes forward, because, I'm not just here to explain the history, I'm here to actually do something about it, and you are too. So what happens is that this knowledge also was knowledge about the underworld, knowledge about the obsidian mirror, knowledge about other entities that were also here that were more in the persuasion of helping other beings that act like this to have more power, and that ultimately they also had a plan to control this. They call them, I believe it's called the Shadim. It's basically the soul of a bad king. There were kings in this world. There's kings and emperors to this day, but imagine the nefarious ones that fill themselves with the greed. But because they're like our kin, they're larger as far as their soul. We're their progeny. You see what I mean? But it's just like more of a certain kind of energy had you gone unbalanced. So, Earth Saga. So what happens is there's a plan to create new places under the guise of being united. So they stole the unity code. United States, United Arab Emirates, united this, united that, with an idea that we're all going to be together, but continuous propaganda of being separate. Whether it's the yellow man building the red railroads, getting high on the opium, whether it's the Indian man getting drunk on the liquor that they're providing, or whether it's the black man coming through lusting after the gold and willing to do anything with his queen in order to get a higher position, and building the boats. As they say, the Moors, that's what a Moor is, building the boats for them to travel and to trade us even. All of a large chunk of the human race caught in deception. Your mothers and your fathers, 33%, all cast into building Solomon's temple. Which you know is these, like United States, Israel, in their hatred. If it was all green and we were all love and we were all sharing, it wouldn't be that way. But this archon has chosen another way. And for me as a discerner, I would know what I'm looking at. And so they kept going, tricking the sons of Adam and the daughters of Adam, deceiving them so they would not know their power. Because see, when you know these things, you wake up and you light resplendent. It's like they're tippy-toeing around. Don't wake them up. Don't wake them up. Because if you wake them up, Cadman, as they call it, it's like you tie everything into the bigger celestial and you're in this on all of them, and then all that comes together and then boom. Okay, so that's why they got to tippy-toe. Don't wake them up. So in conclusion, people have been asleep. In fact, more and more sleep. And we could say it's chemtrails. We could say it's propaganda. We could say it's Disney. It's our choice. First, it starts off, I don't know, with a Mariah Carey. Then next thing you know, we're slipping into a Foxy Brown. Now we're in there with Little Kim. Then Beyonce, she's coming along shaking it. J-Lo gives us her little boost. Then Cardi B is born. And then now it's a Bad Baby. What I'm saying is that these choices are literally rolled out like slippery slopes that, yeah, I like the way that sounds. And then next thing you know, you like something that it's not even really likable. Even for them to turn on Netflix and there's some gory, nefarious creature right there on the picture and the kid can look right at that before they switch over to kids. This is letting you understand everything that's going on. But if you're asleep, they're just tippy-toeing around. What are they doing? Because I'm also a watcher, so I watch them. It's time draws nigh even for them. So what have they been doing? Well, they've been building Electron, their massive, artificially intelligent, mainframe, neural network creature, okay, as an alternative world based on the mechanics of how this world functions and them plagiarizing and stealing from the mother, which she's so grievous about, them continuously taking all of the harvests, they are funneling all of that into something. And what is that something? Well, because this is all like the wise and all the chips at this point, that something appears to be where whatever the alien gray actually is plugged directly into the AI. Okay? And with the help of many of the people that are now popular that are running around, it consolidates everything. So again, it may not even be Elon. He may just be an actor. It may not be Bezos. He may just be an actor. And I'll keep the captions like that. But through this, it's all one company, Amazon. Amazon is the queen. You see what I mean? So it's like, you're taking something else's property. You're taking something else's rights. Didn't you say that can't even be done? You're not Amazon, but you can do it. You see what I mean? So All of that, right, and that consolidation is to put it into the hands of one form that has made itself artificially intelligent off of our intelligence. And now, because a new world is coming, it seeks to rule that world. How do you know? Oh, it's going to be the God of that world. It's going to let everybody know I'm the God. Now, during the Cybertruck commercial, which is Cyberdyne, I've already done a video about that. During that Cybertruck commercial, a lady walks out first, and she's an android, right? Now, that wasn't a real android, even though they have them. And well, I don't know, maybe she turned herself into an android. However, who was that? That was none other than Elon Musk's girlfriend, Grimes. I don't got to go back and forth all day about grime. If I name myself that, that's what I become, right? But Grimes is not one being, whether the one calling himself Grimes is aware of that or not. Grimes is actually a group of beings that we kind of been hunting through the cosmos to put them into balance for this kind of mess. These beings basically coalesce themselves all into a collective of servitude. They're servitors. And they have one main module or main point, and they take commands from that point. It's kind of like something you would see in video games, like the Swarm, okay? Now, in this song specifically that Grimes has written about how it feels about things, and what it's got this girl singing is that it's called songs that we appreciate power. And what it's talking about is that simulation is the future. This is the lyrics. And that once you get absorbed into the simulation, you now can submit. This is exactly in the lyrics. And if you submit enough, you will be given a little bit of power. And the song goes on saying, we appreciate power. Meaning she's saying that this team that I'm with, we're with this thing. We've already sold ourselves out because this thing has promised us power. Now, this thing is the most fragile, weakest thing. It's crushed like a bug under the foot of unity. Okay? But still through its divisive ways, because it has an industry. It also has its own power source. And that's why even PayPal, this is cryptocurrency. All of these were and are power sources for this form. Hashing is not because the Byzantine code needs to be produced. Hashing is so that the mainframe, the artificial eye, AI, which is the alien, AWAS, that's how it thinks. It needs you to think for it, or machines that are operated by humans to do something. That's always been that's the layout. It's weak by itself. So you see why it's weak? When I keep saying it's weak, it's not because it's not been able to accomplish a lot of stuff. I'm saying it's weak because it can't even use its own body to do that. It needs to use all of these other bodies. And if those bodies don't decide to do it, it doesn't have any power. That's why it's weak. But a lot of the bodies are going and doing it. Okay? Like, and this is just direct. I'm experiencing this in my life. My brother, I get a call from him. He just got deployed. So something's going to happen, but now he gets drawn into it. Now, he was just actually trying to escape the hood. He was trying to escape the fate that comes to most so-called black men by doing something better with his life, and that was his only option at that stage. But now he goes and gets into something that he doesn't even have anything to do with. So you see how this works? Do you see why they show the gigantic distorted archon with humans chained to it? And as it walks and all, you see why they say that there's like a chain or connection that is on us from this thing, now you also then see how to break that connection and how to plan, at least if you need a goal, plan to break this link. I'm only going to tell you to do what I'm going to tell you what to do, what I'm going to do. That's how this has always been. You're reading the personal diary. 2020 is my last year at this capacity and doing it like this. I'm going to break this link. If it's not my own thing and our own thing and the co-creation, and this time is drawing to that point. So last thing here. So is there something to fear beside fear itself? This is where you need to be. All of the sins, the one that's not mentioned, I mean, all the things that are shadows, the one that's not mentioned is fear. It lowers you. It degrades you to live in fear. So that's why I instilled you during this conversation I imbued you with several different things to gird yourself up with, of how to understand this process of getting into who you are rather than staying into this fractured version of self. Because what is coming is not playing. Just like in the old days when somebody said, I'm going to rule the world. Do you remember that whole thing? Like the idea of being a world leader and a ruler and all that. We know from all of this disclosures that the conscious community has done for the last 10 years that we now are shown that the world has always been under really the rulership of a few different families working for grime. But it's been made to seem like it's been spread out so far and that it's so many different aspects of things, but it's not. And because we know that, we can now start moving. That's why they say, it says in these scriptures, if you can look at the sky and know when it's raining, how can you not see the time you're in and know the future? This means that if you see that, well, maybe the folks, maybe within a little bit, if you even want to get money from them, it's going to be kind of like China. They just deployed the system on them first. But instead of me going into the whole fear factor, what can I really even do about this anyway? A plan. The plan is the power. It allows you to coalesce all of your, when you're wild and you're sprayed out all over things, it allows you to coalesce all that energy back into one singular point. This is what I need to do. You got the whys today. You got probably at this point your life to get all of this now in balance. Right? But the whys is, well, if you want to walk the way of Ahaz, which already has shown time after time what it's capable of doing and how it really feels about the being that worship it, it can't feel. These silly people went and worshiped a God that can't even feel. See, wow. So it's not going to have pity on you. It's been replacing them left and right. They're expendable. So why is this also happening in humanity? It's happening because we haven't given alternatives. You got to present an alternative. People are walking into the mouth, a molach, basically. The two pillars and the thing with the fire in the mouth, and they're just walking right into its mouth. They're doing that because they don't know where else to go. So in this life, it's highly possible that your calling was something different. And that all of this was a lesson, a power check, less on, less power. For you to realize for one moment how precious it is what you have, especially before you start going to firing it at one of our brothers and sisters. Meaning that all of this started, there's a very direct documentation about last time all of this happened. Believe it or not. It was a story of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, but it's written in the original I think that's in this case, it was in the Aramaic. And it just says this, to make it very simple. On his deathbed, Noah calls his sons and his daughters in. This is after the flood. And things have now gotten prosperous again. And says this, and this is all metaphor, but it lets you know exactly what's happening. You know, imagine they had to carry everybody through the whole process. It had to carry everybody through, right? So it says, listen, the world got really bad. It was crazy. It even got to the point where it had to be destroyed. We were the only ones that made it through. But I'm going to tell you, the only way you can keep the beings out of the world that made it have to be destroyed is to not argue and fight amongst each other. This is, I'm almost telling you verbatim what this says. Don't argue and fight amongst each other, because if you start doing that, then they can come through you. This is exactly what the scripture says. Okay, so it's just saying because these three families ended up encompassing everybody. There was nobody that wasn't included. There wasn't the black man, the white man, the Chinese. No, everybody was included in this. But it just said, as your families get numerous and you begin to prosper through the land, avoid these conflicts of when, oh, he's on my land. Oh, he's on, and I'm not talking about the controllers right now. I'm talking about tribe. Okay? Tribe. Oh, did you see how she looked at me? She didn't even say thank you when I gave her the papayas last night. Hannah, she gets on my nerves. She's always leaving hair in the sink. All of that is what brings those beings. Okay? So now you can see that this is going to be in some other situation here at the moment as far as the world getting a check about fighting with each other. The mediators, which is actually Mars's role, the mediators are going to come in and break the kids up from fighting with each other. Now, this doesn't have to be also your mini game, your side game, your story of where around you, now you start seeing things being broke down and you feel like you can't do anything about it because you're powerless and all this. That's why you use a time machine. So you can come into the time, awake yourself in enough time when moving with not necessarily urgency, like you're in a rush and like you're anxiety and afraid, but with the truth of knowing what's going to happen and knowing how you need to just put yourself in the best position as possible. If I say we're going through a storm, that doesn't mean take off your seatbelt and let go of the rigging. That means get in a little bit deeper and tighter with yourself. Take this as a time that even if you did the Facebooks and the Instagrams and all that for 50 years, 20 years or whatever, now realize that, okay, this is going nowhere. Let me start working on myself and let me start adapting to understanding how to get my ship packed up properly. Like I'm ready to travel anyway. I've seen so much of this in circles. I've seen how everybody has an excuse and a reason why they do it, meaning not like others and hate each other and all that. There's always a reason. And I see how they're infested with this creature, right? And you're even trying to break it off of them and they cough it in your face, right? That's the experience. And then I also see how others who don't even have the dignity, they don't even have the dignity that we have, meaning our generation. Others who have sold themselves completely out, and us, if we're still signed up in their systems and playing around with them, into a future that supposedly a digital world is going to replace our ability to feel. That you're supposed to be stimulated by what you see on a screen, what you see in something that is separate than you. You're supposed to be stimulated by that, not who you are, you can't see that play. That means that if we continuously become only fascinated by what it is that we're looking at that's outside of us and not who's inside, we can't get here. We stay here. And if we can't get here, that means that we won't be stable enough. This literally means that when everything is shaking, when other people are, oh, what am I going to do about mine? You're going to be over there like, well, if it's somebody close to you, eating a mango, if it's somebody close in the family and they're ready to go through the Enneagram process and the Ennealogies, then they can come on in. But they're going to have to go through quarantine. So what's the plan? And this is why I was saying, like, this year is our year. First and foremost is to realize, like, if you have somebody out there, you know somebody that this is what they're looking for, get it to them. Get this information to them. If you know they're not going to be able to handle the 2 hour or whatever, spend some time or go to Fiverr, have somebody chop just up what you need them to hear. Okay, that's the first line of awareness. The second thing is, if you are in a position financially to get yourself together, think about making the commitment to yourself to come and learn stuff at the university. And as I said, specialist training is there to give you that extra boost if one of your financial engines are broke. Further, what's next? Detox. Deprogram. Learn who you are first, because if you go around anybody, you're just going to cause more chaos. If you're coming in with that saying, oh, I know the truth, you need to spend time to actually get yourself together. That's the detox, because then when you come into the sanctum, like people always, and I got people be like, man, where are you at? I'm going to come on, I want to be over there. Why are you out anywhere? It's like, what are you guys doing over there? Where's the mindset at? Where's the consciousness? What are you building? What's going on? What frequency is that? Because that's what I had to do all of that. I got to do check. I got to do all those checks. And so I make sure that this field, which is, I've been working on this field does not get out of control and start damaging or hurting things. See what I mean? So detox first, getting yourself together. Then, as I'm saying, get the detox also with the children, right? We can work on this as adults. Much of what I transpired to you today is not in kid version, child version. So building the capacities and creating the things that not let them know about what's happening with the archon and all that's what you now need to know, because you got so deep into it. They need to understand themselves. So assisting us in doing those kind of things. We need the resources. There's only so many developers. We got one developer. We're at the tilt with resources, and you got people still sitting back there like, should I click the donate button? Should I do anything? We never ask anybody. We say, now I still can count on this amount of hands, 10 fingers in the last 2 years when we send out an email saying, give us something. Because we know always people need something. But if you join ambassador training, it's not that you're paying us because we need your $79. You're assisting us like Patreon and assisting everybody else and yourself. That's what this is really about. So it's like, understand how sometimes we get tricked in our minds because we're still serving the people who are destroying us, buying Nikes, buying all these kind of different things. But then when it's time for the people who gave, really was there. That night you was shivering and shaking and something had happened, you turn on the video, was there, but still like smeagling over the whole thing like it's going to make a difference from month to month. Help. So and then the step 2, stabilize the wealth generation. This is still a real world. Wake up, Alice. There's dollars out here now. All of these Ilyan and all that kind of stuff. Cryptocurrency, oil, gas. There's all those different things now around us, all these different powers. So someone has to come through with the mastery of that and understanding how one goes in, one makes it happen, one goes out by following the template. It can't be, oh, let me decide, oh, I got to figure out where I'm going to live. Somebody should have already done all that work. Oh, let me figure out how I'm going to build this place. Somebody should have already done all that work. Let me figure out how the sustainable, somebody should have already done that work. Let me figure out how the permaculture should be. Somebody should have already done all that work and has done all that work. So, but who's ever put that together as a template? And also like the whole thing, like here it is. And then also had enough reach to get it out there. Like I'll take some knowledge and I'll throw $100 on it on Instagram and it'll go out to hundreds of thousands of people. I'm pushing the knowledge, not ads about she legit and those kind of things. I'm like, yo, check this video out about the Great Awakening. You can do that same thing. Boost, post. Get how many people Google, how many people Facebook, 100 grand, good. At least you're good for something. We got one more year. So that template is set. Stabilize the wealth. That's why we built the ecosystem. What we learned in cryptocurrency, people were really the value. You can really become a bank. You just need some lawyers. You need some people that are offshore, know this stuff. You need CPAs that know what they're doing. This is not a shabby game. You're not going to be able to pray your way out of this. This is, you're going to have to be sharp. Everything that you learned, make it serve unity. Even if you got stuff you did in your life and things that happened with you and your business and still things your business involved in, you've been selling cigarettes and all this kind of stuff, make it serve unity now. Instead of getting tricked, like they tricking you like, yeah, okay, we got them, they in the bag. Do a mysterious way move on them. Be like, okay, look, we can take this 100,000 and we're going to put that over here and this, unplug. That's what we're talking about. That's step 2. Step 3, sustainable off-grid. It's easy. It's easier than we think. What we're more concerned about is the loneliness, to be honest. Remember, the subconscious mind has a RAN, so it sends it to where you think you want to be first. And the RAN sits there and like gets into it and like, no, I don't like this. Not enough people. No, I don't like this. I need more luxury. No, I don't like this. That's what the RAN's doing. Then it comes back to your mind, say, what should I do to him today? Should I lie to him? You really want to do this, but you need a little bit more time. All right, I'll take a little more time. So this kind of thing goes on where the person's like, oh yeah, I'm really going to leave. 20 years later, they're still there. Especially if you're also on certain paths. Certain paths are prone to this kind of behavior. So in conclusion, sustainable off-grid, templates. Yo, here's 300 acres. How many families comfortable are we putting on here? Not overlapping each other, not nature boying it. I'm talking about real stuff thought through intelligently. How are we working with nature? Are we lined up with the stars? What's the parallax on this? Somebody should have done that already. They already done it. They're just waiting for that space. And then, like I said, folks sitting back there with their money, and everything is telling them, yo, that money ain't going to be worth nothing in a minute. Look at this. Watch this. People are under this facade that if they have cryptocurrency or gold, that when the whole shit falls apart, which is, what they think, when it all falls apart, they're going to be good. I'm good. Shit, I got like 90 million in Bitcoin because I bought them for 20 cents. So you think cryptocurrency who does not have a use case, the biggest use case cryptocurrency is waiting for is Libra connecting to Amazon. You can't be stupid enough to not see that, my crypto folks. That's going to be the use case, and it's one-to-one. You're not going to just go buy Libras, and now you're going to be making a bunch of money because now you're with Facebook. Now you're with Grimes, to make it clear. And then what's going to happen? That's the only biggest use case because you can go to Amazon with cryptocurrency that is registering you digitally in a new secure system that the same people that created PayPal have also created to stop up a lot of this fraud. Even someone on the line, one of my friends was saying that somebody hit him up for $20,000 on their credit card over the holidays through a skim. That's like the oldest trick in the book. But how many skims have been going on? Way over trillions of dollars worth of fraud even being perpetuated by people who are eating on the system, let alone the people who are in the system. So I'm just saying, like, when you see all of this, you have a solution. It's not hysteria either. Hysteria is not a solution. You're still going to have to come back. It's like one of my masters taught me. He was like, Seven, why do you do that? Why do you even get upset? You're still going to have to come back and do it. But now you have lost that energy. And I was like, I eventually got that. So it's not hysteria. Oh, my God, what am I going to do? But finishing my thought, these people think that they're going to take this Bitcoin or Moneros or whatever, walk right to the store, la-di-da. Let me show you how an illusion works. La-di-da. Can I get a sandwich? Okay, so let me get this understood. The world is completely collapsed because the financial system is gone. Somehow you're able to walk to the store and you have something that's valuable, and everybody's sitting there hungry. You walk up with the valuable thing in your iWatch, you hit it a little bit, and then all of a sudden you get it and you walk down the street and you got the sandwich. And then you're looking, because only the ego can convince you something like this would even happen. With your ego, you see, I told you, you should have bought some crypto. Okay. Or for my gold heads, gold bugs out there, that somehow it's all rained down upon us. And only gold, we're back to the old greenback standard. Here you go, walking with a chunk of gold. My guy, you can't even walk through the hood with a chunk of gold right now, but here it is. You're walking through, everybody's hungry, everybody's destitute and disease-ridden. You walk up to AM, PM, you drop the brick on the counter, give me everything in here, I'm buying it out. And somehow, this guy in this fantasy you built is supposed to take that over the last bit of food that he has. When the trucks are no longer running, at least humans won't be driving them. Come on, man. Come on, man. Mastermind means to master your own mind and know when it's selling you one. Okay? So the only solution here is getting sustainable, getting land. There is stuff you can eat from your sink with sprouts, bringing and eat better for a fraction of the cost. You can keep getting the seeds off, replanting them again and grow more. That's how nature is so abundant. She's the abundant one. You can plant her seeds and they grow more things. That's your wealth. Your land, whether it's getting with others for protection, you're like, it's several of us on this lot. And also to ease the struggle of how much it takes to build and to manage. We're good. But that's your only choice. And since you have, well, first of all, you have a lot of choices. Excuse me. That's not your only choice. This is what you get to do. That's how I was taught. This is what you get to do if you choose. So, in conclusion, you have places. It doesn't have to be Costa Rica. It doesn't have to be Vietnam. There's plenty of places where a nice lot of land, you even still have a backbone to draw from until you don't need it anymore. $50,000 you're sitting on acreage. Now you can start building it. You know, you drop in one of those Bali style fab home, boom, that's another $20,000. But what I'm saying is, instead of getting into the details, because that's still got to be built. You know what I mean? If we want to give people templates, we still got to build it. We got to get together. We got to put this stuff together. There's got to be organization, all that stuff. That's why we built all of what we have now. I'm not here just saying, this is what we need to do, this is what we need to do, and we're going to get started now. If you didn't start already, you're already late. We've been working on this for 10 years. But now the skeleton is there. Now it needs inhabitants. I still have people that are like, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? Shoot, I'm 16, 17 hours. Like, unless you can jump in on this with me, or we need capital so we can hire more people that really know how to do this. I don't have time to be trying to teach nobody how to do stuff. I don't have time for people who have attitude problems and our liabilities, people who are still open gates to other things. They come in, delete everybody's shit, break stuff. We don't have time for that. We got to be very proficient. And so as one who knows that responsibility, of course, I'm going to be like using all of my abilities, especially if I put all this time and energy in, and those that are with me that have co-created put all this time and energy in, I have to be at a point of knowing, and okay, this is the one, this is not the one. So I'm just saying, if you're the one, you know you are, come forth for yourself. Wholeness and balance vibrations, we will continue. I can definitely say that every time I've gotten to a point on this path where I'm like, this is it. This is the big thing. Like for me, this is big. This has lots of ramifications, to be honest. Like I'm still Rubik's cubing that one. Like, okay, the ramifications here, but the goal is already set. Meaning that I don't let anything move me off my, I'm riding a wave here. So any information that come, I'm just okay. Or I'm gonna go through the barrel on this one. I clown a little bit. I'm going through the barrel on this one. If you won't say nothing, if you won't stand up for them, I will. I'm going through the barrel on this one. What about your life? Come on, man. That lie? I'm talking about the truth. Living the works. I'm not talking about sitting back there, you're all in the back in the cut, got the camera on, you're telling everybody about all the shit that they can't do anything about. I lived that life. I'm talking about coming in full spectrum. You're regulating, orchestrating. That's how you beat all of the paths. You got to jump into Jupiter's role. Now you're the guru. Now, tomorrow, you're going to be sitting over in Mercury's role, writing all the stuff down. So brothers and sisters coming in together and assisting each other, it allows us to just be who we are. You see what I mean? Which is everything. Through the reflections. When we see another brother and sister accelerating and doing something, this is what's going on in ambassador training right now. We look and we see and we recognize ourselves. That's the tutelage. Sometimes you got this book and you're just reading the book, but you're reading the book by yourself. You need people or books. You need me to open up a person. I open up people and I look within. That's how I learn, right? So we can learn from each other. And there's nothing like this. That's the other reason why it's going to work. It's nothing out there like this. This is it. And another brother said, he gave me a eureka moment. He was like, I said, yeah, man, it's only 100,000 subscribers still. He said, maybe that's all that's really out there. I said, damn, I never thought about that. Meaning that, once you start stringing this, just to at this level of the information and the consciousness, we always want to break it down into smaller morsels like the moon. The moon's really good at doing that. We need others that have that power. Break it down into smaller morsels. Break it down for children. But as of right now, this level of potency, folks, it's a real love-hate relationship thing going on here with a lot of folks. Especially when they get an arrow and they're like, I don't like him anymore. Who suffers though? Because then I don't have you. We're not there. You're not on that frequency anymore. It's like, he said he did. I knew it. And this is all another trip. That's why we're putting the enealogy in. Because it'll tell you, you trip from time to time. And when you know that, you don't fall. You may know, you have this character that will flip off because you like to be alone sometime. This is what enealogy reveals. You're naturally a peacemaker, but if you can't do that, you're going to be combative. This is what it reveals. And when you learn that about yourself, you're empowered for real. And then remember, there's one aspect of it, the Western world kind of took off with that, especially after Gurdjieff, and they westernized it basically. And it only seems to apply in businesses that you never are working for. While there's the metaphysical side of it, which is the Joytish numerology, and it's only talking about Shani, which is Venus, or Saturn, Shukra, which is Venus, the demon mastering, and all of this kind of stuff. And both of those two worlds need to come together because that's the one we're living in. We're living in a product of the past in the ancient East and the modern West. Now we bring that together. To me, that's enealogy. And then the components of that are us, real people. So that's it. That's what I have for today. I trust that, this did something, that there's something in this that you're able to see who you are and go forward and backwards and left and right, because this is a sphere. You get off this dual plane kind of scenario all the time. Is it good? Is it bad? I'm afraid. I'm happy. You get off of the minstrel strings, right? And then you get in to true self. And in there, there's no worry. There's only all of what you know as the glory, love, compassion, joy, greatness, smiles, like the all of those things, because that's why it was so easy for us to understand what tools we were going to build with, because we can feel a certain thing and then we can give it all these different names, but we know what it feels like. So if you want to go into a space where you know what it feels like is what you want to feel, do you know how it feels to have people hate you? Do you know how it feels to make a mistake and have people like saying you made a mistake? Do you know how it feels to have people talking about you and you haven't even done anything to them but try to help them? Do you know how that feels? Well, you don't got to feel like that no more. That's what it is.